Good evening, chat. Hello. Day 20, Karen Reed. That's right. Day 20 of Karen Reed. The saga continues. No end in sight. No end in sight. I did hear, yeah, that was weird. I don't know, different mic. I don't know, guys. Hold on here. Audio. No, that was just a weird thing there. Sorry. So, I did learn, somebody did mention to me that apparently Bev is calling it quits for the week. So after today, there will be no trial tomorrow or Friday, which means chat on the Friday. We got Russell Greer. We got his audio, and we got the audio of his hearing with Matthew Harden. We also got Russell Greer getting in trouble. Looks like lying with the court. It's going to be a fun time Friday night. It's going to be a fun time Friday night, let me tell you what. So, yes, they're off until Tuesday. Yes. Yes, because Monday is Memorial Day. So they're off until Tuesday. So it'll be great. Yes, Russet Greerer, 100%. Let's see what else. Who just asked here? Michael Boylston just got here. Any donated subs? No, I heard today's very short, which on the plus side means we could probably do members only afterwards, which I think will be a lot of fun. So we'll see how we're looking tonight. So let's get started. We left off with Christine Hanley. She was the lady who did, basically, she assembled the taillight back together for the Massachusetts State Police, and that is where we start. That's where we ended, so we will go on there. Did I plan on matching my soundboards today? Yes. That's exactly why. So it is that time. Oh, I see you guys found the new emojis. Good. Parallax put those together. So if you guys see Parallax, tell him thank you. I kept forgetting to put him in, but he put those together. What's the penny for? Because I'm a penny lawyer, according to Destiny. So, so let's get started. I am aware that there was some sort of issue with Bev having to voir dire the jurors independently, along with counsel. So something happened with the jurors. We don't know what. Some kind of funny business happened. It's not clear. So ultimately, though, I don't think it was that big a deal because we never heard about it anymore. So it sounds like whatever happened has been resolved. So here we go. Here we go on this. And let's get it going. Hydrosphere says, wait, Destiny said that? That's funny. Yes. I know, like I mentioned, if I had started this and you told me Destiny was gonna know who I am and talk about me, I'd have never believed you. I have gone to such great heights, chat, already, even at 25,000 subs. T-Rex Trucking and More says, I didn't feel good on Saturday. Do you have a potentially rescheduled date for the Supreme Court oral arguments? Yeah, this Saturday. And it's going to be 3 hours, so we're going to start early. But I think we should start Saturday. I don't think I have anything family-wise till Sunday, so we'll figure that out. But yes, Saturday. It'll be Saturday. We'll do it an earlier afternoon, and then we'll probably do some model stuff on Saturday. So, Kale saying supposedly 2 jurors were goofing off, so they had to be separated. Okay. All right, well, that helps. So let's skip ahead. Let's get to this. All right, chat. We got the fan. The fan is solemn today. The fan is silent. Now, does the prophecy say, as they say when the fan is silent, justice does not reign? Well, there's Peg. So let's see what's going on here. All right, here we go. Let's go.
Please.
So let's see what they're. I think this is all here. Let me just skip ahead and make sure we don't. Yeah, they skip ahead from here. Look at this chat. When you guys get to do this, get to hang out with me. We're 2 hours in. We're 30% done already.
You've seen how hard the lawyers have worked to pull this case together for you, and everybody's given it so much time. So please, let's make sure that we follow that. That means each other. So with that, I know we're late getting started.
Okay.
But I do need to stress for you that it's very, very important that no one discuss this case. Don't let anyone talk to you about the case. No comments about the case. You've seen how hard the lawyers have worked to pull this case together for you, and everybody's given it so much time. So please, let's make sure that we follow that. That means each other. So with that, I know we're late getting.
It sounds like they're talking to each other already. That's her way of telling them, shut the fuck up. Interesting.
We started. We're going to take an abbreviated lunch today, only 30 minutes and abbreviated breaks. So no morning break. We're going to start now and go till 1. All right, Mr. Brennan, and we're taking a witness out of order. I apologize. We've got a witness here. Sometimes we take witnesses out of order. Ms. Healy will be back later for the rest of her testimony, but we've got a witness here that we'll call out of order. Thank you. Mr. Brennan, thanks.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Commonwealth calls Dr. Wolf.
Yes, I have made it. Hey, look, Mom made it. Guys need more volume? All right, hold on.
Demonstrate to the court and jury in the case down here and the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I do. Thank you.
Good morning, doctor.
Good morning.
All right, whenever you're ready, Mr. Brennan.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury, spell your first name and last name for the court reporter?
Sure. My first name is Isaac, A-I-Z-I-K. It's phonetic. Last name is Wolf, W-O-L-F, like the real thing.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a brain surgeon.
Is there a special part of medicine that you study?
Well, my main interest in brain surgery is brain tumors and trigeminal neuralgia, but I also specialize in movement disorders. I do pediatrics and adults.
Are you an active working neurosurgeon?
I am very active working neurosurgeon. I get up every day at 4:30 in the morning to go to work, 5 days a week. I take call 300 days out of 365 days a year.
Did you work yesterday?
Yes, I did.
What type of work did you do yesterday?
I did 2 brain surgeries yesterday.
Are you working tomorrow?
I have 4 surgeries scheduled for tomorrow, which is why this is a little bit late for me, and I have 4 on Friday.
And what type of surgeries do you have tomorrow and Friday?
I have 3 brain tumors, 1 trigeminal neuralgia, and on Friday I have 4 patients with movement disorders.
You're here today as a witness. How much of your practice, how much % of your income is from being a consultant or a witness for a case?
Probably less than 1%. I don't do this for a living.
I want you to take us through some of your education and background. Could you share with us where you went to medical school and where you graduated from?
I went to Yale Medical School. I graduated summa cum laude.
Was that in 1981 that you graduated?
Correct.
After medical?
That's pretty fucking good creds. Also, Chad, in case you didn't know, I had to Google this. Trigeminal neuralgia is a chronic pain disorder with like facial tics. That and like extreme pain in your face. And also, if you guys wanted to see this guy real quick, here is his website. If you want to go to it, Isaac Wolf. His physicians, there's 2 of them. You guys want to learn about him? You guys can read about him. He is, undergrad from the University of Chicago. That's not bad. Summa cum laude from Yale. Yeah, this guy's good. We don't have to worry about him like fucking this cocksucker. Shannon Burgess. Oh, look what they did. They fixed his education now. Huh. Isn't it interesting how that works with a real expert versus a fake expert? You don't question this guy. He sounds like he can walk the walk and talk the talk.
School, did you begin internships in medical residency?
I did an internship at Hennepin County Medical Center, which is a trauma center in Minneapolis. I then did 5 years of neurosurgical residency at the University of Minnesota.
And was that in Minnesota?
Correct, in Minneapolis.
Is there something about that hospital that has some specialty?
It was one of the #1 training centers for chairmen in neurosurgery at the time.
Did you, in your residency and in your fellowships, do any work or study in pathology?
During your residency as a neurosurgical resident, you do 6 months in neurology, you do 3 months of neuroradiology, you do 3 months in pathology, which includes autopsies on brains. And then you do rotations through a trauma center as a chief resident through a VA hospital, and then ultimately at the university hospital for elective cases. We also do 6 months of
Jimmy,
pediatric
I'll eat a
neurosurgical
bowl of
residency.
mashed potatoes during the
Did
middle of
you
this.
do
Raw
a fellowship
hamburger. How about
at
that?
New York University?
Yeah, at NYU, I did a fellowship before I went to the University of Maryland as a professor in brain transplantation. The interest was in using cells to create dopamine centers in rat brains with the concept of Parkinson's being curable with transplantation.
That's something that's
I'd like you to
trying
take us
do.
through some of your faculty positions, and so you can share with us some of the progression of your training and experience. Did you begin at the University of Maryland Hospital?
Yes. In 1987, the University of Maryland recruited me to start their epilepsy surgical program and skull-based program. And then part of our responsibilities as assistant professors was to cover shock trauma.
Could you explain for us what shock trauma means and whether the University of Maryland Hospital was a shock trauma hospital?
So the University of Maryland and shock trauma were actually two separate entities when I started. A man named Cowley had basically developed the concept of the golden hour. So prior to Dr. Cowley, most trauma was just taken locally. That meant as a community hospital, if a patient had been in a motor vehicle accident, they needed an orthopedic surgeon, they had to call the orthopedic surgeon in, could take 15 minutes, could take 3 hours. The same thing for a vascular surgeon, the same thing for a neurosurgeon. Dr. Cowley came up with the concept that you needed a center that was strictly for trauma, and every attending had to be in the hospital 24/7. So that was the concept of shock trauma back in the 80s. When I got there, we were transitioning from a very small center to a 125-bed hospital that was completely committed to trauma.
In that experience, in the years you worked there, did you have an opportunity to treat a number of people with brain injuries?
We treated well over 100 patients a month, basically, with brain injuries at shock trauma, along with spinal cord injuries.
Did you perform surgeries in different types of brain trauma and brain injuries?
Yes.
After Maryland in 1993, did you move to Miami Neuroscience Center?
Yes. In 1993, I left academics. I went into private practice in Miami, and I started the Miami Neuroscience Center. We were the first private community hospital to have what's called the Gamma Knife. So we were the 13th in the country, but the only one that was non-university based. And Gamma Knife radiosurgery is using radiation to operate on the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Are you presently the director of the Miami Neuroscience Center at Larkin Hospital?
Yes, I am.
Do you conduct a number of surgeries a year there?
Correct. So I spent 19 years at Doctors Hospital, and then we moved to Larkin Hospital 13 years ago, developing the new radiosurgical unit called ZAP, and also another fancy machine called high-frequency ultrasound to treat the movement disorders.
You've noted that you have a number of professional memberships. I don't want to go through all of them. I'd like to point out a few. Are you a professional member of the American Association of Neurological Surgeons?
Yes.
Are you a member, a fellow American of the College of Surgeons?
Yes.
Are you a member of North American Skull-Based Society?
Yes,
And is that brain related?
it is.
Are you a member of the Society for Neuro-Oncology?
Yes.
Are you a member of over or at least 34 different professional memberships?
Yes.
In your career, have you engaged in research?
Yes.
Has that research focused or centered on brain injury?
Yes, it has.
Is some of your research as a principal investigator for THAM treatment of brain tissue acidosis in severely head injured patients?
Yes.
Did that research and as a principal investigator help you in your diagnosis and treatment of brain injuries?
It actually was in the treatment of severe head injuries patients who are unconscious. The concept of trying to relieve the increased intracranial pressure that occurs from the injury and to increase blood flow, thereby increasing oxygen to the brain.
Did you also serve as principal investigator for research for the PEG, SOD, and severe head injury?
Yes.
Could you describe that very briefly?
Basically the same, one of the biggest problems in brain injury is the fact that blood flow ceases to exist as the brain swells up. And so one of the things we try to do is preserve the neurons by making sure that they have enough oxygen and blood flow to them. All these are agents that try to assist that.
I won't go through all of your research and principal investigator roles, but I want to ask you about one more. And that is, did you serve as principal investigator relative to the IRB protocol for brain pathology?
Yes.
And what did that do? What was that about?
It was about looking at what happens after a brain injury to blood vessels and tissue as the intracranial pressure increases in the brain.
Have you been part of publications of a number of different books?
Yes.
I won't list parts of all 16 books, but can I point out a few?
Sure.
Were you the author of a book chapter regarding head injury, difficult medical management?
Yes.
Were you the author of a book chapter on pediatric neurosurgical emergencies?
Yes.
Were you the author of a book chapter on complications of head injuries in adults?
Yes.
Were you an author of a book chapter, Imaging of Craniocerebral Trauma?
Yes.
Were you an author of a book chapter in Emergency Room Assessment of the Head Injury Patient?
Yes.
Were you the author of a book chapter, Intracranial Injuries?
Yes.
I won't list or ask you about the other book chapters that you've been the author of. Have you been involved in journal articles?
Yes.
I'd like to ask you just about a few of the 70 journal articles that you have published.
Your Honor, objection.
So go ahead and ask the question without comment, please.
Were you an author of a journal article, Intracranial Pressure in Non-Traumatic Ischemia and Hypoxic Cerebral Insults?
Yes.
Were you the author?
No, guys, he's not worked on John. He's going to explain, presumably, why the injuries in John's head are consistent with getting hit by the car or just not going inside. We'll get to that. That's what he's going to testify to, I presume.
Of a journal article, Post-Traumatic Cerebral Infraction.
Yes.
Were you the author of the journal Fractures of the Clivus?
Yes.
Could you tell me a little bit about that paper?
We used thin cut CT scans to identify fractures of the skull base. Prior to CT scans, it was very difficult to actually identify radiologically a skull fracture with plain X-rays. The idea was to see if we could identify them more clearly. And so we classified them and delineate them in the paper and discuss the outcomes that were relative to those type of injuries.
In the last journal article I'll ask you about, were you the author of a journal article regarding acute traumatic midbrain hemorrhage?
Yes.
Were you the presenter in a number of presentations regarding head injury and brain injury?
Yes.
You've listed 93. I'll ask you just about a few. Were you a presenter in fractures of the clivus, clinical and radiographic features?
Yes.
Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Clivus.
Thank you. Were you the presenter in acute head injury?
Yes.
And a separate presentation, fractures of the clivus, classifications and clinical features?
Yes.
Do you lecture?
Yes.
Do you have peer-reviewed publications?
Yes. That was one of them.
And are you heavily involved in clinical research?
Right now, my research is more based on radiosurgical techniques and outcomes.
Over your career and your study and your clinical experience, have you treated different types of brain injuries?
Yes.
Are you familiar with a number of different types of brain injuries?
Yes, we still treat them.
Were you asked to review materials relative to this case?
Yes.
And do you recall the materials that you reviewed?
Yes.
Could you share with us some of the materials that you reviewed?
I reviewed the chief medical examiner's assessment of the case. I reviewed pictures that I'm assuming the medical examiner took of the autopsy. And I reviewed the report from the forensic pathologist.
And before I ask you about your review of specific materials and your opinions in this case, is there a benefit to your clinical experience in studying brain injuries as opposed to the experience you had as a fellow simply with pathology?
Well, I think that for the jury to understand, as a clinician understands the process from the time the injury occurs till the patient either leaves the hospital or dies. And it's a process. And as a neurosurgeon, I have a tremendous amount of experience with that, if that's what you're asking me.
Yes. And so, doctor, you reviewed a number of items of information in this case. Did you have an opportunity to review photographs of a laceration to Mr. John O'Keefe's head?
Yes, I did.
With the court's permission, I'm going to ask to display Exhibit 160.
Okay.
Dr. Wolf, I'm going to ask you to take a look at this photograph. Have you seen this photograph before?
Yes.
I want you to explain to us what you're seeing here and take us through the process of your observations.
Well, what we're seeing is an approximate 1.5 inch laceration with bridging tissue and contusions and abrasions. To us, that's just a classic blunt trauma injury. There's nothing other than just vanilla about it. This is what happens when soft tissue hits a solid ground. The skin tears apart a bit, but not through and through. As you can see, there's the bridging.
Well,
You can see all the bruising
here's
or contusions and just,
and here's the thing, guys. I've still said this. The ground is not like rock hard. It's not as hard as concrete, but it gets pretty fucking hard in the winter. I mean, could it be hard enough to fucking like, would you want to crack your head on the ground? No. Could I see, depending on how we hit it, kind of split the skin open? Yeah. So, I mean, I could definitely see that. That's why I still think he could have, slip and fall.
The tear, a little bit serrated along the edges.
Thank you. If you could take that down.
Yeah, he does use standard.
Dr.
Yeah.
Wolf, as a result of that wound, did you have a chance
Which
to
is
further
interesting.
look at information provided to you about the actual inside the skull of Mr. John O'Keefe?
Yes, it was the
knows.
pictures that I was reviewing showed a non-depressed skull fracture extending linearly through the clivus and into the frontal fossa of Mr. O'Keefe over the orbital roofs. He had fractures along the temporal fossa as well. So it was a classic linear basilar skull fracture.
Is basal skull fracture a
It's
characterization?
basically the base of your skull is what it encompasses.
So it's
So
called a basal
the
skull
opening-
fracture.
at the very bottom is what we call the foramen magnum that connects your brainstem to your spinal cord. And then as your brainstem goes up, it goes into the different skull areas that, talk about what we call the cerebral cortexes, your occipital lobe, your temporal lobes over here, and then your frontal lobes.
So can you walk us through what happens when someone incurs this type of injury to the back of the head, how it happens, and what are the next steps for a person?
So what happens is, you fall backwards and the linear acceleration starts to take you back down with gravity. The skull hits the ground. It gets, in layman's terms, smashed a little bit. And then the brain moves forward as a response to that. And it moves forward because you have cerebral spinal fluid and because you have the deceleration, acceleration again. As it does, your skull, if you were to look inside your skull, it's like mini mountains along your temporal bones and your frontal bones. So the brain is being thrust forward at a fairly good speed, and it's getting bruised. You can think of it as if you took a hammer to your thumb. It's really turning black and blue. Those are the contusions. And so the temporal poles and the frontal poles are getting contusions because of that. At the same time, you have a space called the subarachnoid space. And I'm sure they're going to hear about the subarachnoid hemorrhage. That space is it's very clear, thin membrane that covers all of your brain and all of your spinal cord. And normally, you really don't see it unless you open up the brain and you're operating. But when you either have a traumatic event like this, where little vessels are pulling apart underneath that membrane, or, for example, the classic, when you have an aneurysm burst, the space that the aneurysm bleeds to is the subarachnoid space. The other thing that occurs in trauma like this is you can get a subdural. So the dura is the membrane that covers the whole brain and also right down your spinal canal. And it's a very thin membrane that looks like very thin leather. And in that space between the brain and the dura can be a lot of veins that go towards a central vein called the sagittal sinus. And if those tear, you have a venous hemorrhage from, which is not arterial, so it's not quick, but that can develop into a subdural as well. If you tear a portion of your brain as well, and you get a little arterial bleeds, that could create a much faster subdural hematoma. And so when you look at the pathology, the autopsy of his brain, you're looking at a subarachnoid hemorrhage, you're looking at a subdural hemorrhage, neither one of them which was huge or would have required surgery, as well as the contusions that I described in his frontal poles, in his temporal poles, and then the original bang, which was in the occipital area. These are all findings that you would see on a CT scan and an MRI scan without requiring an autopsy if he had made it to the emergency room.
I want to take a step back at the beginning. You said that this laceration on the back of his head was caused by a fall. Could this be caused by a fall landing on hard ground?
Yes, and like I said, it's a classic blunt trauma laceration.
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty whether this injury, the laceration and the basal fracture, was caused by Mr. O'Keefe falling backwards on the ground?
My opinion is that that's what caused his whole injury.
The pattern of the laceration, do you have an opinion whether that is consistent with hitting the cold, hard ground?
Objection, Your Honor. Can we have sidebar on that, please?
So I'm sustaining the objection, so no sidebar.
Your Honor.
Your
I'm not
opinion,
licensed in
doctor,
Minnesota, guys.
about whether that laceration on the back of his head.
So there you go. It's, you know, this is, you know, I know everybody was, I'm not saying you guys, but I know on like the Young Jerks, people are screaming like, is it possible that happens? Like, well, it looks like those injuries could be sustained from a fall. It's like, well, there we go. It's like we're kind of getting to the point of like, some of this could be true.
Was caused by a particular movement.
Well, the only way he could get this kind of an injury was to fall backwards, hit the back of his head, and then the resulting, you know, energy forces going into his brain, into his base of his skull.
Would that type of laceration require Mr. O'Keefe to have hit a line type or ridge type object?
A ridge type of object?
Yes.
No, I mean, like I said, the tearing of the skin in that fashion, you could look it up, would be just a classic blunt trauma injury.
Is there anything about that injury that would suggest to you it had to have been something sharp or ridge-like to cause?
Objection, Your Honor. If we can request kindly a sidebar on this.
All right, we can just.
Thank you.
Ooh. Well, I don't think there's any allegation it was sharp. I think they're arguing blunt objects, which really at this point, I think Jackson and them need to dump the whole he was hit with a weight in the back of the skull. Just focus on the shit that doesn't add up. That's how I'm thinking they should handle it.
So as we were discussing, Dr. Wolf, you said this is a classic fall backwards. Is there anything about the pattern of that laceration that would suggest that there was a ridge or a line type edge that caused that wound?
Not necessarily.
And have you seen, in your experience, similar types of lacerations and breaks caused by falling on hard ground?
Yes, you can see that both in the occipital region. You can see it if patients fall on the, you know, forehead. The skin tears, they're still bridging, and then they get bruises.
Some of your work was in Minnesota.
Correct.
Was it a colder part of Minnesota?
Very cold part of Minnesota.
Did you-
It's Minneapolis.
I'm sorry. Did you often see these type of injuries there?
Yes, I mean, we took care of a trauma center, Hennepin County. Very frequently, patients that are drunk fall down on ice sidewalks and could develop, you know, lacerations in their head, epidurals, which are blood clots above the dura because they fracture a bone in the temporal area and they can get a bleed from a fractured artery. And it happens when people are shoveling snow and have a heart attack and fall backwards. So there are various ways that people fall, resulting in head injuries and lacerations to their forehead or to different areas of their head.
Can somebody suffer this type of injury simply by falling backwards?
Absolutely.
You had taken us through the process of falling backwards and then talked about what happens to the brain. Can I ask you a couple of detailed questions about that?
Sure.
When you explained that the brain upon impact then shifts forward and hits the front of the skull, is there a medical term for that process?
Well, the medical term is a coup counter coup injury. So the coup is when you first hit. In this case, it was the back of the head, as summarized by laceration in the back of the head, and the contusions that the pathologist and the ME found in the back of the brain. And then the brain shifts forward, and as it's traveling at a certain velocity, because it's thrust forward on the floor of the base of the skull, it's getting bumped. And it's getting, again, you can think of it as a hammer hitting a thumb. It's getting black and blue in the areas that are sharpest.
Are there symptoms that result of the process coup counter coup?
Coup counter coup thing is how you get a concussion. Because remember, your brain is kind of like free, like there's the brain stem that ties it in, but your brain is kind of free floating otherwise. It's just tethered in one spot. So when you get a concussion, your brain's bruising itself. It's smashing into the skull. So you can go backwards, you know, the way John would have fallen, he would have gone wham. And as the brain's going backwards, bam. And then it goes bam into the front. And I had heard about this before that could cause, you know, facial discoloration. And I think we're getting to that point here. But by simply falling backwards, yes, that is very bad for them. And I wanted to make sure I heard that right. Because, chat, what did I say? What did I say is a logical answer here? What is the most likely answer that something happened? John was drunk and fell over. There was some super secret murder, death, kill, assassination where, like, Colin Albert butt-fucked him to death. while Brian Higgins beat him with something, and Chloe the dog is sitting there like growling away at him? Is that what it was? Or is it John being a drunk, sloppy, drunk, dumb fuck, fall over dead? How do drunk people get injured? Falling down, cracking their head open, dies outside. Whoops-a-doodle. So, Eric says Brennan can't talk about getting hit by a car. This guy can't talk about getting hit by a car because he doesn't deal with those. This is meant to destroy the theory that there was some like big assassination or murder that happened inside the house. They're trying to show these are injuries sustained from being outside, not from being attacked. So, autopsy bitch said the Hilton wasn't from falling. You know what though? I don't know if he can like she doesn't know what happened. That's the thing. She can't really say she knows what happened here. I think Chloe jumped on John, knocked him backwards. That could easily be it too. Nick says, why would you hire an out-of-state neurosurgeon for something a local trauma surgeon could testify to? Because a trauma surgeon couldn't. A trauma surgeon doesn't specialize in neurology. So a trauma surgeon would be there to like relieve pressure on the brain, but you bring in a neurosurgeon to do the hard work. They brought in the best expert they could to say the state's theory or the defense's theory of a murder is bullshit. Hank, this is a preemptive witness. This is a preemptive expert. This is a preemptive expert. So this is all it's meant for. That's all we're doing here. That's all we're doing here. This is meant to he's clipping the nuts of the prosecution right now, or the defense right now, ahead of time. But anyways, Nick Starro from Nick Starro Trial Watch for 50 Swedish kroner. Thank you, Nick. I hope you're doing well, guys. Take a look at Nick over on Nick Starro's Trial Watch. He just got done with David from MLS doing the Nick Schur trial, or the Christopher Schur trial. Cop of Grand Rapids. Not sure what his next thing is, but also he just had his birthday recently. So tell Nick happy birthday if you get the chance. I know he would appreciate that. But did he? We don't know. It's not done yet. But his argument is that's what they're bringing him in for. It's kind of clear what they're going to. Vanessa says Brennan's done as a defense attorney. Oh no, he's not. He'll still have clients. So this doc wanted to take a trip to Cape Cod. No, we'll see here. We'll see. But we'll keep going though. We'll keep going here. So let's keep going. Well, they might have shot for this answer. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see. Remember, the defense still has to go. This is Hank. Remember, when you see the defense's case, you should think, oh my God, Karen's fucked. So we'll see. Let's keep going.
This is clinically, it varies. I mean, you can go from anywhere from a simple concussion where you sort of are unaware of what happened, but you're still awake, you're confused, all the way to, ultimately being in a coma.
Can this type of injury, the coup contre coup, and what you see in the review of your files, could this type of injury happen from an attack by a weapon, like a bat or a hammer?
Well, he did not have a depressed skull fracture. So any focal hit like that would more likely than not have caused a depressed skull fracture. Blunt trauma, the way he had, the assumption, would cause the coup contre coup without a depressed skull fracture.
When the coup contre coup process happens with the skull fracture, does anything happen to the front of the skull?
Well, you're asking me, does the rest, the forces, depending on how hard they are, can generate fracture lines all the way to the anterior fossa. So you can have fractures along the lateral temporal area. You can have fractures along the orbital roof. The orbital roof is very thin. And so those forces can go all the way to that area.
Did you see any sign of orbital fractures in Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes, he had He had both the ME and the pictures taken, and the neuropathologist mentioned fractures of the orbital roof.
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty how those fractures occurred?
From the trauma.
Could you just explain a little bit how that would happen?
Well, as he fell backwards
From the
and he
trauma.
struck his head, it was clearly at a very high speed generated by the gravity. The bone, depending on the quality of his bone, the density, then generated forces. There's a certain amount of lateral give, and then you get a linear force going forward. It drives all the way up the clivus and forward into the anterior fossa where his orbital roofs lay. And this is why people like this get what they call raccoon's eyes.
Do you have an opinion whether the brain itself could have caused the orbital fractures?
No, the brain is a soft substance. You could literally put your finger through the brain. We often operate on people fully awake. The brain couldn't possibly cause a fracture. The fracture was caused by the forces generated through that clivus, that middle bone in the middle of his base of the skull.
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty whether or not the brain in any way could have caused these orbital fractures?
The answer is absolutely not.
In your study of the records and photographs and in your experience treating these types of injuries, do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty whether or not a person would remain conscious or would be immediately unconscious after the impact of the ground?
All right, chat. So I just went ahead and Googled this. A coup counter coup can lead to raccoon eyes. I mean, yes, he's got the cut on his head. This alone, though, chat, gives Kieran Reed reasonable doubt. You don't have to prove the big butt-fuck murder. John O'Keefe fell down, drunk, and died. Reasonable doubt. You guys want to prove the murder, you're not going to be able to prove the murder. Focus on the reasonable doubt. Okay? I'm just trying to tell you guys, you got to focus on the reasonable doubt. That's how you win. So, yes, this guy is really hurting Hank's case. So, yeah, trash panda eyes are completely normal in a whole thing here. The head hitting flat ground means not a vehicle hit. I agree, and that's what you need to work with. That's what you need to work with. This, there was some Brian Higgins took a weight and beat, like, no, don't focus on that shit. Don't focus on that shit. I'm just saying. I agree that's probably what happened, but what can you prove beyond, like, what can you prove to a level of certainty a jury's going to buy? You got to prove you got to prove what you can prove. And it's realistic. Sarah says, you don't have to prove what happened. If you're going to say John O'Keefe was murdered, you have to fucking prove that. You have to prove that. That is such an outlandish claim to the jury. You're going to have to show some evidence that happened. The easier route to go is you can't prove what killed John. Reasonable doubt. Boom, done. But if you want to say if you're going to specify how he died, that's going to be the problem. And they can't prove that. So I don't think they should.
Well, it's impossible to know whether he became immediately unconscious, but his injuries were very substantial. And it's more probable than not that at some point he quickly became
I'm not
unconscious
yelling at you.
and was unable to do functional activities.
What does functional activities mean?
The ability to, get himself
He wouldn't have been
up
able to
and about
self-care.
would be one of the functional activities. The ability to call for help would be a very significant cortical function. And that's why I was talking about, that there's a variation on the theme from a simple concussion to a severe concussion like this.
If a person does not have functional abilities because they are rendered unconscious, could it still move?
Yes, this is the interesting thing about our brain. So the cortex, which is the top portion of your brain, can get separated from your brainstem functionally. And what happens then is that your body is not acting autonomically, meaning vegetative. So why does that happen? We think it's because as we were a caveman, and if a caveman became unconscious, as an animal came up to eat it, the animal would touch it. Well, you have these automatic movements. One of them is called decorticating, which is where you draw your arms like this and you throw your feet out. And then a worse neurological situation is when you decerebrate. Now you push your arms out along with your legs. And that would scare off an animal. So we think that over time, genetically, this is what happened to our brains in order to create these. But those kind of movements are not thought processes. In other words, your brain is not telling you, oh, you have pain, go ahead and decorticate or decerebrate. It's an automatic movement in response to pain.
I want you to take us back now to after the fall. Would Mr. O'Keefe, in your study and opinion, have died immediately?
No.
Can you show?
I don't.
I'm sorry.
Yes, I'll tell you. There is very few things that you head injury where you would die, quote, immediately. So if I took a knife and stabbed you in the back of your neck right below your skull and I drove it through your brainstem, you would probably die immediately. If I shot you below your ear and went through and through below your ear and shot through your brainstem, you would die immediately. But traumatic head injuries, you would not die immediately. It's a process. And it's a process of a combination of things. Brain swelling, which takes a while to develop. Decreased blood flow to your brain because you're getting swelling. And ultimately, death of the brainstem that controls your heart and your breathing. And so this is why there is a whole big issue about brain death. You know, when is someone brain dead? Because it's not instant and it can take a long time to be conceived. In these injuries that are very severe that we took care of, there was a high mortality rate. In the linear skull fractures, it was about 67%. But it took time for them to die. It could take days to weeks to months. And also, these people got to shock trauma. So it was a while, whether it was hours, before they were even starting to be taken care of. And yet they weren't dead yet. That's why I don't think it was immediate.
Was there any other observations you made about Mr. O'Keefe or his body that support your opinion that he didn't die immediately?
Well, the medical examiner took pictures of his periorbital area and diagnosed raccoon's eyes. So raccoon's eyes occur because there's leakage through the orbital fractures into the periorbital space. Normally, it takes about 24 to 48 hours to develop. It has been noted as early as 1 to 3 hours, which would make it not immediate.
Could we please have Exhibit 14? Dr. Wolf, could you share with us what you see here in this picture?
So right here, you can see the black and blue that sort of configures, if he had his eyes open, like what we describe as raccoon's eyes, right? And that's not caused by direct trauma to his eyelids. It's caused by what I described as the basilar skull fracture, which went to the anterior fossa, which is right over the orbit here, inside with leakage of blood products into that periorbital area.
You mentioned that starts or takes at least 1 to 3 hours to begin.
Minimally, yes.
You take that down, please. If Mr. O'Keefe had been brought to a trauma center or emergency room, what would the process be in your experience?
Well, he would have been intubated if he wasn't intubated in the field. One of the first things you need to do in a head injury is control the airway. Why? 2 reasons. 1, you want to have enough oxygen going to the brain to feed it. And 2, you want to keep your carbon dioxide down because that causes increased intracranial pressure if it elevates. So you want to constrict the blood vessels a little bit. Then he would have had a CT scan immediately in order to assess whether he has a surgical head injury, meaning he needs to go to the operating room to evacuate something or not. During that process, he's obviously going to be getting medication to decrease the brain swelling. And from there, you make decisions based on his neurological function and what you're, capable of doing to, spare the brain from the rest of the injuries that will result. One of the things that occurs with contusions is a great medical term is they can blossom, which means they can get bigger. They might require surgical intervention to decrease the pressure as well as the volume of the blood that's destroying brain. And so you do serial CT scans in these patients over time, anywhere from every 6 to 12 hours to on a daily basis, depending on what the case-by-case, production of blossoming is occurring.
You mentioned that about 2/3 of your patients who suffer this injury pass.
Correct. What we saw is that in the patients that suffered linear clavicle fractures, 2/3 of them ultimately went on to die, and 1/3 lived.
Is there commonality on how they pass?
One of the common reasons they passed is if they trapped a major vessel in one of the fractures, they would get a significant brainstem infarct, meaning a stroke, meaning lack of blood flow to a very significant portion of their brainstem. And so that was one of the causes of death that ultimately we understood. And then the others died from the increased intracranial pressure that drove the brainstem down through the foramen magnum.
Did you review any materials that talked about or identified Mr. O'Keefe's body temperature when he was treated?
As I recall, his core temperature was 80 when he was found.
Is that significant in the process and development of his injury from the moment he fell and hit his head until his ultimate passing?
Well, hypothermia, if you define hypothermia, it starts at 95 degrees. Your core temperature is usually about 98, 98.6. 95 is very mild hypothermia. When you get to 82 degrees, you're in severe hypothermia. What happens when you're hypothermic, and I'm a neurosurgeon, but I can tell you that you get into multiple organ failure. Your heart starts to have problems. It can have arrhythmias. You're not breathing. And ultimately, at hypothermia, you also become unconscious and go into a coma-like state. Below 80 degrees, you're probably going to die. So all I can tell you, it wasn't helpful that he had a significant head injury and that he was then found hypothermic.
Is it uncommon in your experience for people that suffer this injury to pass within 5 hours?
Well, none of the patients we treated died within 5 hours, but it also didn't mean that we didn't realize that they were going to be in a potentially vegetative state. When someone's hypothermic, you have to warm them up in order to establish a clinical status, meaning you can't declare someone dead with a temperature of 80. You have to warm them up slowly, appropriately, and then reevaluate where they are clinically.
I've asked you questions about whether you had an opinion about Mr. O'Keefe and when he died. I want to ask it in the form of a formal opinion. Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty whether Mr. O'Keefe died immediately or within 15 minutes?
No, I don't think he died immediately. Neither the hypothermia nor this kind of head injury would kill you immediately in any clinical experience I have.
Hi, Angela.
Dr. Wolf, thank you.
I mean, he wasn't he wasn't dead yet, but he was dying. And by the time he was frozen, by the time they found him in the morning, he was on his way out.
All right.
Let me have a moment, Your Honor.
Sure.
Thank you.
Here goes Alessi.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Morning, Doctor. I don't think we've had the pleasure of meeting. Welcome.
Thank you.
Sir, can you just describe, you started to do it a little bit on direct, a typical day for you?
I wake up at 4:15 in the morning. I go to my center. I set up patients with frames for their either radiosurgical procedures or stereotactic craniotomies. I go home. I make cappuccino for my wife at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then I get back to work at 6:30 and move on. I have patients that I'm operating on, and I have patients that I'm seeing through the day.
What type of patients and what type of work? Just in a typical day. What are you doing? What type of patients and what do you do?
It varies. I mean, I see patients with brain tumors. I see patients with hydrocephalus, which is water in their brain. I see pediatric brain tumors. I see subacute and chronic subdural hematomas, post-traumatic. I see patients with strokes that are being misdiagnosed. I see patients with cancer, metastatic disease. I used to see patients with cervical problems. I stopped doing that 2 years ago. I mean, I don't know what else you want me to tell you.
No, that's great. And is that typical day, typical of the type of days you've had for the past month, past few years? Is it generally, without specifics, is it generally?
Correct.
So none of your typical days, none of the past typical months have involved forensic pathology, have they? You haven't acted as a forensic pathologist in.
I am, if you could have asked that question, very straightforward. I am not a forensic pathologist. I'm a brain surgeon.
Right. And you don't perform autopsies, correct, sir? You're a brain surgeon.
Correct. In other words, I see more brains than the forensic pathologist.
Right. And is it correct to say that the brains that you see are of living people?
Correct.
Okay. So what I'd like to do is to go to a different part of the head than was discussed, but sticking with the decedent.
Excuse me, I didn't hear the last
I'm
word.
sorry, with the topic is going to be Mr. O'Keefe, the decedent in this
Okay.
matter, sir. You testified about raccoon eyes. The medical term for that, sir, is ecchymosis, right?
Correct.
And ecchymosis, raccoon eyes, does not cause a laceration to form on an eyelid, does it?
No.
Are you aware that Mr. O'Keefe had a laceration to the outside area of his right upper eyelid?
I am aware that the ME described that. Yes, sir.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
could, Your Honor, I'm going to, with Your Honor's permission, ask to publish what is already in evidence in a moment.
Okay.
Mr. Wolf,
What exhibit number, Mr. Alessi?
we're going to, 165, Your Honor.
Okay, go right ahead.
Thank you. Dr. Wolf, have you seen this photo depiction before today?
I believe I have.
Is it correct that that injury
Okay.
on the upper right eyelid is caused by the application of force directly to that area of the front of the head, again, namely the upper eyelid?
That's possible, yes.
Is it more than possible? Is it probable that that injury was caused by the application of force directly to that area of the front of his head?
Well, an easy answer to that would be is that that's not part of the periorbital ecchymosis.
Thank you, sir. That was exactly going to be my next question. This injury is unrelated to any of what you've been describing, the fall backwards, the force transfer inside the skull,
Okay.
the, as you described it, the dura, the cerebral spinal fluid, all of that dynamic that you so ably described on your direct examination. This injury has nothing to do with that, correct?
Correct.
I agree.
I have one more moment, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you for answering my questions, Dr. Wolf. A pleasure again. No more questions at this time, Your Honor.
Okay, any brief follow-up on that?
No, thank you.
All right, Dr. Wolf, you're all set, so you can get out of here.
Thank you very much.
So he literally flew out, interrupted his surgery schedule for like fucking 50 minutes of testimony. That's it? Hank, you wasted this guy's time for that? The defense choked on him. No, they didn't, because they pointed out he's got injuries not consistent with a brain hit. So, this wasn't that bad. So he could have been got punched, fell backwards, sure. But he also could have fallen down and cracked his head. And who knows where the cut came from? Once again, you're not going to prove the gangbang murder. Just prove he fell down. And there's no injuries consistent with a car hitting him. Karen walks. It's all you have to prove. You don't have to prove everything else. That was a very good job. Loknav is saying, I don't know if somebody has thought of this, but what if John was struck by a flat, blunt object like a plank, like a 2x4, if he hit his head on a wall? I mean, there'd be a lot more damage because he would have like orbital fractures. And there's only so much damage the brain could do to your head. Like he pointed out, your brain's squish. Your brain is just mush. So there'd be more like shock injury to his head if he got struck with an object. So the defense just cuts the prosecution's entire case. Yeah. Well, Hank didn't help his case either. He could have just fallen down and had this happen. There you go. Reasonable doubt. So what's the TLDR? He's got injuries consistent with striking the ground, which doesn't convict Karen. So, yeah, he just said, oh, he fell down and hit his head. I don't know what happened. The raccoon eyes could have been falling down. So, but he clearly got hit in the face. I don't know. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. Who knows what happened? We don't really know. I mean, that's the thing. We don't know for sure. How's the slip and fall explain the what? How does it explain the what? Explain the... Jeff says maybe she hit him in the face and hit him with the car. Well, how would that work? Getting hit in the face of the car? Was he staring at the tail light and she hit him right in the bumper? Doesn't make any sense either. So, Tim says, but the defense doesn't even want a falling down injury causing death. Yeah, because they're being fucking retarded. They're being retarded. They're making this harder on themselves than it needs to be. KB says, how does the slip and fall explain the dog bites? I don't know. Here's the neat part. Here is the neat part. Karen doesn't have to prove any of this. Karen doesn't have to prove any of this. She can easily turn around. Alan Jackson can turn around and go, ladies and gentlemen, there's marks on this guy the prosecutor can't explain to you. If they can't explain what caused these and what happened, you have reasonable doubt. Instead, we're getting into this Colin Albert, Brian Higgins are spit roasting John O'Keefe before they murder him theory. And it's like, no, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. You can't prove that. Just say, look, the shit doesn't add up. They would be in a much better place if they did that. So it would have made far more sense. Anna Wall says she doesn't explain, Jack, if they're going to come up with a theory that there was a murder and that somebody else did this to him, yes, you do. The jury's going to demand, like, you're going to have to provide a fucking answer to that. Can't just say, nuh-uh, it was the Alberts. Okay, well, how? You have to prove that case. That's why you don't go prove shit. You don't have to. Reasonable doubt's an easier standard to meet, and they shouldn't do this. And I called Colin Albert a twink. No, I figured Colin Albert and Brian Higgins were spit roasting John O'Keefe. So, Egregious Darkly says he could have gotten hit with the head of the meteor. Who knows? Prove it was Karen or get the fuck out. I agree. But when Alan Jackson's going to be talking about like getting hit with a weight or some sort of dumbbell or barbell, that's unnecessary work they're trying to do. So they shouldn't do that. but that sounds like they're going to. And that's going to put Karen in prison. Brandon says, golden shower gay. John Coleman says, take my money. You deserve it. Well, thank you. And if you feel bad, at least buy Clyde some of his favorite bull beans. We'll do that. Don't worry. And Brandon says, if you're starting to deprive yourself of bull bean, don't penalize Clyde just because you've been through miles more. Thank you. Hi, Steve. He says, will you represent the nanny? Well, like, what? Suing the town drunk who mistreated his kids? Like, it's not like he's got any money. When am I going to put a lien on the Mustang? Put a lien on the Baldo bunker? So, yes, the brain is pudding. Coming from Spud Gun for £2 sterling. The King sterling. Nick Croiser says, is it about proving it or throwing out multiple possible circumstances? I missed intensely how he focused on it. He said there was going to be some sort of like fucking weight-shaped thing hitting the back of his head. I don't know why you do that. You don't, like, they already came up with a theory. And it's bad because now the jury's going to want to hear it. Chugi Show says, sorry off topic, but part of me wants Cheney to sue. Why? Nobody fucking believes Nick. He's the town drunk. You know, if he really thought all this shit was true, he'd have waddled on down to the police station and going, Detective Pompin! Detective Pompin! Cheney was mean to my children! She did them all! Help me, Detective Pompin! Clutching his pearls like it was Kayla's nudes. But he didn't do that yet. Because he's a bitch. And because he's full of shit. And we all know he's full of shit. He hasn't done it. So there we go. Ag says, are jurors allowed to talk to each other, or is it only in certain states? Well, you're allowed to talk to each other. You could be like, hey man, how were the Indians last night? Or like, wow, it rained real hard. You talk about anything but the trial. And it sounds like some of the jurors were kind of getting close on that issue. So she was telling them, don't talk about the trial. So that's what it sounds like we were dealing with. He could have fell or a shake weight, I guess. But remember, you got to show that. Yeah, Linda, no jury's allowed to talk about anything from the case, but it sounds like some of the jurors were starting to. What you know, you can talk about every other thing, and you'll hear jurors having a joke and a smoke all the time. They talk about every other thing possible. Is it Shoney's or Stoney's? No, Stoney's. As your night terror, it is Stoney's. It is Stoney's Bar and Grill at 158 East Broadway Street in Rockville, Minnesota. It's Stoney's. Stoney's. So the first trial is a different trial. It is. So agrees Stark, this is more like he did it himself and is blaming the nanny drunk stuff. Well, yeah, or he's just completely lying about it, which I mean, that's the real thing. Nick's all like, every time I wake up after being blackout drunk, there's liquor missing. It's being stolen. I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact you're waking up blackout drunk. So we'll see there. Odds on the jury are going to quit? I don't know yet. Eric says, wait, you can't talk to the other jurors about the trial you're sitting in on? No. Because that's deliberation. You can't talk about anything. Now, like, if the roof caves in and, like, you know, a bird comes in and lands in the judge's hair and the judge runs around screaming, oh my God, get it out. You could probably talk about that and laugh about it. But they can't sit there and talk about Shannon Burgess. They can't talk about Jen McCabe. They can't talk about any part of the trial like that. They could sit there and say, yeah, the trial food sucks. The bailiff who busts us in every day is a dickhead. They can talk about that stuff. You cannot talk about material issues in the trial. Not till deliberation, because you have to do it as a group. You can't just have little factions of jurors talking to each other. So, yeah. Yeah, somebody said they may have already started deliberating. Yeah, but I think it was. It doesn't sound like it became an issue because nobody got kicked out. So, let me see here. Were a couple of jurors making fun of Burgess? Well, that wouldn't be a problem. You'd be like, "Oh my god, that dude's so bald." Even then, that's kind of you're getting to the line there. But they could have laughed at him for being bald, or let's say Burgess shit his pants in the middle of trial. You could laugh about that. Can I say Bev is terrible? Yeah, they could probably get away with that. Anna Wall says they're not allowed to make facial expressions, which is bullshit. Because you can tell, like, it helps for them to make facial expressions. I can tell what's going on, what they're thinking. Spud gun for 2 more pounds, Sterling. The King Sterling. He says this whole case is bollocks layered in bullshit. I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. So, can you make fun of his testimony as a total jury? Well, yes, can we all agree he was a retard? No, you guys should not be talking about things like that at all. Like I said, talking about the witnesses themselves gets you a little iffy. Like I said, if it's like I said, that becomes an issue. Now, if it's something funny like the bird in the hair, you could probably get away with that. So, yes, the ceiling cats were drinking all the liquor. Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right, so let's keep going here, chat.
Mr. Brennan?
May we have a moment to inquire of our next witness?
Sure.
Sounds like they're not ready yet.
Our jurors, feel free to stand up and stretch.
So, let's see.
Jurors, you may.
Look at John. Or look at Paul. Paul lean on edge of bench. Paul feel most comfortable this way. Paul not have snazzy tie and jacket like this man. But Paul okay with frivolities. Paul is frugal. Paul frugal man. Paul simple man. Paul's mom missing. Paul's mom went get smokes and milk. Paul's mom has not returned. Paul's sad. Paul's so sad. Let's see what happens.
Ahead of schedules 1 week.
I'm sure they blew through him faster, and this whatever witness they're trying to deal with is taking a leak or something. No Turtle Boy in the courtroom today. Oh my God, chat. We're like, we got like no time here. Okay, this is Christina Hanley, the witness from yesterday. They went to lunch. Okay. He has not won the lottery to be in the courtroom since week 2. Yeah, I noticed that. So this witness is still on direct? Yes, this witness is still on direct. So we're going to get her label back up here. Let's keep going, chat.
All right, Mr. Lanley, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. And ma'am, if you could, just please introduce yourself to the jury again, spelling your last name for the record.
Sure. I'm Christina Hanley. Hanley is spelled Hanley.
And Ms. Hanley, given the break, if I could just ask you a few questions just to reorient as far as the items that we were speaking about yesterday in your testimony. First, starting with the items of glass that you analyzed in this case. The first of those items was an item 3-2. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And if you could, please describe for the jury, or please provide the jury with the description for that item that you received.
Sure. So item 3-2 was a clear glass cup with broken irregular edges. And there was some dirt debris material that was noted on the exterior and interior surfaces.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes. Did you show counsel?
Showing you a photograph of Ms. Hanley, do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize that?
So this is a photograph that I took. It's item 3-2, but it's also, I would have to double check on my notes, but I believe it has item 7-12, one of the pieces that I'm holding that's showing a physical match between those two items.
Your Honor, call the seek to introduce in the minutes of the next exhibit.
All right, let's get this.
195.
And Your Honor, may I publish?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 9490. Ms. Hanley, what's up on the screen is that the photograph that I just presented to you.
Yes, it is.
And if you could, please describe for the jury what we're looking at here.
So that is a photograph that I took upon examination. It is the clear glass cup, item 3-2. And I'm holding another piece, which again, I believe it's one of the pieces from item 7-12. I would need to confirm in my file, but I'm showing that one of the pieces physically fits with item 3-2.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Gilman, you can take that down. May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Showing you two other photographs. If you can those, look up when you're finished. Did you recognize those?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize those?
So these are photographs that I took of item 7-12.
Your Honor, Commonwealth of Massachusetts introduced in the minutes the next exhibit A and B.
Are there any objections?
No objection.
Thank you.
Exhibits 196A and 196B.
And Ms. Hanley, if you could, just remind the jury as far as the physical description that you received in regard to item 7-12.
Sure. So item 7-12 consisted of some clear plastic pieces as well as 9 pieces of glass with broken irregular edges.
And may I publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have first photograph 9476. And if you can enlarge that just a bit, Ms. Gilman. And Ms. Hanley, what are we looking at in this photograph?
So this is the photo that I took of item 7-12 as I received it. So there's the several pieces of clear glass with broken irregular edges.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9477. If you can enlarge that just a bit. And again, Ms. Hanley, what are we looking at in this photograph?
So those are the same pieces of glass as in the previous photo, just a little bit more up close of the clear glass that was recovered and is item 7-12.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman, you can take that down.
It's a lot of fucking glass. It's a lot of glass,
Ms.
chat.
Hanley, as far as a comparative analysis between items in 3-2, the glass cup, and 7-12 regarding the glass pieces, what, if any, conclusions did you make in reference to your comparison between those two items?
Sure. So upon comparing those items, I did note that 6 of the 9 pieces of clear apparent glass had a physical match to item 3-2, the clear glass cup.
Okay.
And if you could just remind the jury as far as a physical match, what does that mean?
So a physical match is basically if an item breaks and
So is her argument that they found random pieces of glass in the Alberts yard? Guys, it's the Alberts, not the McAlberts, just the Alberts. They just found random fucking glass in the yards? Like, you just walk around Canton, Massachusetts, and there's just glass all over the place? What is the non-fitting glass from? Why do we have pieces of glass that don't match that or from another cup? Why is that there? I hope that's interesting. That's very interesting.
those items have broken irregular edges. If those pieces come back together like a jigsaw fit, then it's a physical match and they were at one time together as one larger unit.
Now, as far as each of those items within 7-12 had a letter associated with them, correct?
Yes.
And do you recall which of the 6 were a physical match for item 3-2, the glass?
I would just need to refer to my notes for the exact letters.
Sure, you can take your report out.
The 6 pieces of glass from item 712 that physically fit to item 3-2 were A, B, C, D, F, and K.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Well, let me ask you this first. I'm sorry. So, Ms. Hanley, during the course of this physical match analysis that you're conducting, are you memorializing that process with photographs as well?
Yes, I am.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm presenting you with 4 photographs. If you could review those and look up any tension. And do you recognize those, ma'am?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize those?
Those are photographs that I took upon my examination of items 712 and item 3-2.
Your Honor, Commonwealth, introducing the minutes and next exhibits, A through D. No objection.
Thank you.
Exhibits 197A through D.
And may I publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9502, please. And Ms. Hanley, what's up on the screen? Can you please describe for the jury what we're looking at in this photograph?
So this is one of the photos that I took of one of the breaks that physically fit together between item 3-2 and item 7-12.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9514. And again, Ms. Hanley, can you please describe for the jury what we're looking at in this photograph?
Sure. So this is a photo that I took when I was doing my comparison of item 3-2 and several pieces from item 7-12.
Now, as far as the individual pieces had sort of little white stickers or labels affixed to them, is that correct?
Yes.
Is that something that you did, or is that something that when the items were provided to you was already done?
So item 7-12, I received those pieces with the labels already on them.
And again, those items, especially 7-12, had been with mixed veneer in your unit prior to coming to your table or your
Mixed
station.
veneer.
correct?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9518. Again, Ms. Hanley, what are we looking at here?
So this is another photograph that I took of the physical match. It's just another view of the items together of item 3-2 and several pieces from item 7-12.
And lastly, for this batch, Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9520. And again, Ms. Hanley, what are we looking at here?
So this is another picture that I took of the items just slightly rotated of item 3-2 with a physical fit to several items or several pieces from item 7-12.
Ms. Hanley, is there a laser pointer on the desk in front of you?
Yes.
If you could, preferably using this screen just so it's visible for the jury, could you delineate where you see in this photograph item 3-2 and where you see the items associated with item 7-12?
So this right here is item 3-2, and these pieces up here are several pieces from 7-12.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman, you can take that down. Now, the other 2 items that you analyzed or examined in this part of your physical match analysis were items 3-3 and 7-14, correct?
That's correct.
And turning your attention specifically to item 3-3, if you could just remind the jury as far as the physical description of that item that was provided to you.
Sure. So item 3-3 was 5 pieces of clear glass with broken irregular edges that were recovered from the bumper of the vehicle.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Single photograph. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize that?
That is a photo that I took of item 3-3.
Your Honor, Commonwealth seeking to introduce the minutes of the next exhibit.
No objection, Mr. Jackson?
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 198.
And may I publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9446, please. Ms. Hanley, in addition to the 5 pieces of glass associated with item 3-3, what else is depicted in this photograph?
This is a photo of the 5 total pieces that are from item 3-3.
And in addition to that, is there a rule?
They're saying this is glass that, like, John got out of the car holding a drinking glass, and this is all broken glass they found. So that's what this is all about.
Ruler depicted in this photograph as well.
Yes, there is.
And what is the purpose of that ruler in the photograph?
It's there just as a scale.
Thank you, Ms. Gilman. You can take that one down. And Ms. Hanley, the last of those items, 7-14, if you could just remind the jury as far as what was the physical description that was provided to you in reference to item 7-14.
Sure. So item 7-14 was a clear piece of glass with broken irregular edges that was recovered from the road.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Yeah, Ms. Hanley, just showing you a single photograph. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
What do you recognize?
This is a photo that I took of item 7-14.
Your Honor, Commonwealth seek to introduce this in this next exhibit.
All right.
Exhibit 199.
May I publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9471, please.
Okay.
So
And
the two screens don't match. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Hanley, again, if you could just describe for the jury what is depicted in the photograph up on the screen.
This is the photo that I took of item 7-14.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman, you can take that down. So, Ms. Hanley, in addition to the physical match analysis that you did between item 3-2, the cup, and 6 of the pieces that you found to be a physical match from item 7-12, did you also compare pieces from item 3-2, 7-12, and 7-14?
Yes, I did.
And what did you conclude in your physical match analysis of those items together?
Remember, part of the issue is they claim they found a piece of glass on the back of the bumper when they got to the police station that is part of the drinking glass. And the idea was that would only have gotten there if Karen hit John. So remember, there is an actual reason why they're doing this. And she's like, I don't know if I should say anything.
So
Yeah.
upon examining and comparing item 3-2,
No, they went straight from the bar to the Albert's house. He took it with them, but that's not uncommon. As your night terror, how did the glass stay on the bumper? That's a separate issue we're going to get to, because remember, the tow truck driver is going to get called by the defense. So yes, it doesn't make sense, but this is their theory. This is their theory. So it's their theory. They're presenting what they have. It seems like a stretch. I agree. Funny Money is saying, will you ever do more politics stuff? Yes. Yeah, I will. It's just this is kind of like the big stuff right now. So I'm just I plan on doing it soon. That's the game plan though. But yes. And yes, I agree. It's not Karen's glass. I said it's John's glass, but it was found on Karen's bumper. Remember, they're trying to show how they can put all these pieces of glass back together they found all over the place. So, yes, you mean that tiny piece survived the blizzard? Yep. So, yeah, I understand, guys. John was drinking beer. I get it. But they're focusing on this rocks glass, the highball glass. That's what they're focusing on. So remember, chat, that's the thing we have. I understand you could go, well, that's not true. Okay, I get it. But that's the thing we have right now. It's like if they're a piece of a coffee cup laying on the ground. You're like, wait, but Sean was, using a hookah. Okay, but we have the piece of this right now. So we're talking about this. Nick Des is waiting through the glass of the car. There's no way he could break it. Dr. Rentschler and Dr. Wolf actually kind of addressed this the last time. you would need an insane. Think about how those glasses are meant to be drop resistant. Like there, a lot of glass today is meant to try to be like shatterproof if it can be. So like I can go get a rocks glass or get a highball glass. It's gonna be a little tougher, especially one in a bar. It's meant to be tough because you can't afford to break them. But also, if you break them, there's a risk of injury and lawsuit. So the amount of force it would take to smash a glass from a bar is going to be a lot. And then think about it, you're hitting a car. So remember, if you hit the side panel of a car, that impact, the panel's going to absorb it a little bit. But also, if you try to throw it at the light itself, I mean, it takes a lot of force to smash out a light if you're getting it just right. So, yeah. Oh, you didn't realize that's the glass they were referring to the other day? Yeah. Yeah, no. They're trying to make the argument either John threw the glass of the car or Karen hit John and the glass shattered and yeah. So Ski Man says, wait, you guys have actual glasses in your pubs? Yeah. What do you guys serve? What do you get drinks served in? Like if I wanted like 2 fingers of whiskey, like what would I get it in Britain? Like what would you guys serve it in? What's the Sudan case? I don't know what you're talking about. So, the heating also makes them more brittle from the push through dishwashers. Yes, it does. Platty says ipso facto beverage. Yes, Platty, correct. And Platty, you also asked, is Aaron hosting any upcoming events at Stoney's? He is doing the anniversary show for Steel Toe. I am not going to be able to make it. I've looked at my schedule. I've got some things that are coming up after it that I need the time to prepare for. So, like, I'll probably do a normal show that weekend, but like during the day, I'm going to be working and getting stuff done. I don't feel comfortable not getting ready for that stuff in time. So I'm not going to be able to make it to the Steel Toe anniversary show, just to give you guys a heads up. So plastic for the most part, maybe glass for spirits, but oh yeah, no. We have glass. We still get glass. Yeah. So, a Royal Mewtwo. There's nail biting, I guess. So in Britain, it's a sippy cup, yeah. So my parents had a bar, sold it in 1967. I still have the glasses. The flight to Sudan. Oh, the deportation case. Okay. I'm sorry. When you just say the Sudan thing, I'm like, what? Yeah, Suffolk, go to Sudan. They can have fun there. Glasses in all the pubs I've been in Scotland are a bit rougher up there. Well, yeah, there you go. I agree. There's no glass in the taillight. I agree with all that. There's also, remember when you drive around in the wintertime, what happens? Spray gets everywhere. So the back half of that car would be coated in shit. And that taillight was pristine and clean. So there's a lot of problems here. There's a lot of problems here. So, but let's keep going here, chat.
7-12 and 7-14, I had concluded that 6 of the 9 pieces of glass from 7-12 physically fit with item 3-2.
What about the other ones?
And the remaining 3 of the 9 from 7-12 did not have a physical fit to item 3-2. I also compared item 3-2 and 7-12 to 7-14, but there was no physical match to item 7-14.
Now, in addition to that, did you also do a physical match analysis between item 3-2, the drinking glass, 7-12, pieces found from the roadway, and certain pieces from 3-3 from the bumper of the vehicle?
Yes, I did.
And what did you conclude based on that physical match analysis between those items?
So upon examining and comparing those items, so there were 5 total pieces of glass from item 3-3. I used 2 of those pieces for physical match comparison to the items recovered from the road. Upon my examination, I did not there was no physical match between those two pieces from item 3-3 to any of the pieces recovered from the road. So that included items 3-2, 7-12, and 7-14.
Now, as far as the two pieces that you had selected from item 3-3, do you recall which of those two lettered pieces you chose for your comparative analysis?
Yes,
And which were they?
they were pieces A and B.
And if I could ask why pieces A and B versus other pieces?
So A and B were used for physical match. The remaining 3 of the 5 were not used for physical match comparison due to their size and condition.
Now, those same two pieces from item 3-3, pieces A and B, did you then do a physical match analysis between that and 7-14?
I did.
And what did you conclude from that analysis?
I concluded that there was no physical match between the two pieces from item 3-3 to item 7-14.
Now, did you also do a physical match analysis between piece E from item 3-3 from the bumper?
I did not. No, not a physical match examination.
Did you do any comparative analysis between a piece of glass E from 3-3 from the bumper and item 7-14?
Yes, I did.
And what did you conclude from that analysis?
So I selected piece E for further examination. I did microscopic examination as well as instrumental analysis, and I did the same microscopic and instrumental analysis to 7-14, and I compared the data, and I came to the conclusion that the piece that I sampled from item 3-3, piece E, was found to be consistent in physical and instrumental properties to the sample that I took from item 7-14.
If you could,
Once
Ms. Hammond,
again-
could you please explain to the jury when you say instrumental
So once again, why do we have extra glass laying around Canton, Massachusetts?
analysis. What is that? What does that consist of?
So the instrumental analysis that I conducted was on the GRIM instrument, which measures the refractive index of the samples. So after I had ran my samples for both item 3-3 and 7-14, I compared the data to determine whether they were consistent or not consistent.
And so when you say that something is consistent in instrumental properties, what does that mean?
So in this instance, they had consistent refractive indices.
In addition to that comparative analysis for the glass items, what other additional examinations did you perform in this case?
Sorry, could you say that again?
In addition to items 3-2, 3-3, 7-12, and 7-14, what other items did you look at in this case?
So I also examined item 3-1 and item 7-18.18.
And what was the description provided to you in reference to item 3-1?
3-1 was a taillight, and there were also some other plastic pieces as well.
And taillight from the same vehicle as the glass from the bumper, correct?
Yes.
May I approach, Ron?
Yes.
You have another single photograph. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize that?
This is the photo that I took of item 3-1.
Your Honor, Commonwealth will seek to introduce in minutes.
No objection.
Thank you.
200.
May I publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 9394.
Okay, let's see this.
And Ms. Hanley, do you recognize what's up on the screen as exhibit 200?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize it to be?
This is the photo that I took of item 3-1.
And what's contained in here, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what the item 3-1, the taillight housing, looked like when you received it?
Yes.
Now, as far as, and we'll get to this more a bit in a moment, but as far as any sort of comparative analysis that you did with any other item, what part of this taillight housing were you comparing to that other item?
So there were clear and red plastic portions of
Okay.
the taillight
Yeah.
that appeared to be broken.
Yes. The
so
very
I
clean
sampled
taillight.
portions of the clear plastic as well as the red plastic on the taillight.
And just for clarity purposes, if you could with a pointer, as far as which of these pieces up on the screen were you sampling the clear and or the red plastic from?
So the red plastic that I sampled was from this area. It's a little hard to tell from here. I think I'd have to refer to my photo in my notes, but I think there were a couple of different areas that had clear broken plastic. I think this might have been one of the areas that was broken that I sampled.
And just for my purposes, really what I'm asking, Ms. Hanley, is the clear plastic that you used from item 3-1 was from the housing unit itself, the large piece, correct?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, you can take that down. Now, the other item that you were comparing this to was item 7-18.18. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And what was provided to you as the description of that item, 7-18.18?
So 7-18.18 was debris that was collected from 2 pieces of clothing from the victim.
And specifically, that would be 7-17, an orange T-shirt. Is that correct?
I believe that is correct, yeah.
Okay, as well as 7-18, a gray long sleeve shirt. Is that correct?
Yes.
And when you say that item 7-18.18 contained debris, what did that debris consist of?
So the debris consisted of one clear piece of plastic, as well as several pieces of red plastic, among some other trace material.
Now, were there measurements taken of those items within the debris, specifically the clear plastic and the red plastic?
Yes.
And what were those measured to be?
I would just need to refer to my report for that.
Okay, go ahead.
So the clear piece of plastic in 7-18.18, it measured approximately 1/8 of an inch by 1/16 of an inch. And then I measured the largest and the smallest of the red plastic pieces. And
Okay.
the largest piece of red plastic measured approximately 1/16 of an inch by less than 1/16 of an inch. And the smallest piece among those measured approximately less than 1/16 of an inch by less than 1/16 of an inch.
And so those particular pieces that you measured, about how small are we talking about?
So the largest for the red plastic, the
Okay.
largest piece measured
Let's
just for
get it
visual
out.
purposes. It's roughly
Let's
like the
list.
size of a grain of rice. The rest of the pieces were smaller than that.
And who within the lab provided that debris in that taillight housing to your unit, to the trace unit?
So the debris from the clothing was transferred to my unit by Maureen Hartnett, and the taillight was submitted to the lab by Trooper Christopher Moore.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Funky Monkey, we'll talk about this when we get a break. It's called a stenography mask. We have video of it, but basically she sits there as this person's talking, she's talking into it word for word, and AI basically translates it and makes it a readable transcript. So it's called a steno mask. We'll get to this.
5 photographs. You can review those and look up when you're finished. Generally speaking, Ms. Hammond, do you recognize what's depicted in those photographs?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize those?
Those are the photographs that I took of 7-18.18.
Mike, I agree with you. I still think that's an issue.
101, A through P.
That's why I find this hard to
Your Honor, may I
believe.
publish?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 9352. And Ms. Hanley, what is depicted in this photograph on the screen?
So this is one of the photos that I took of 7-18.18. This is how I received the clear piece of plastic
You can barely see
And
anything.
is that a tin that it's encased in at the time that you receive it?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9355.
Because all you see is a circle. Look how small that
And what
is.
is
You're
this,
going to
Ms.
be able to
Hammond?
barely see it.
So this is a photo of the clear piece of plastic that was within that tin.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9364. And Ms. Gilman, if you could enlarge this just a bit.
Okay.
Maybe just a little more, please. Thank you. And Ms. Hanley, what are we looking at in this photograph?
This is the photo that I took of the debris that was collected from the clothing items.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9366. And again, Ms. Hanley, what are we looking at here?
This is a photo that I took under a microscope of the red plastic pieces that I noted within the debris.
And lastly, Ms. Gilman, if we could have photograph 9369. And Ms. Hanley, what are we looking at here?
This is a picture that I took of the red plastic pieces that I removed from the debris.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman, you can take that down. Now, Ms. Hanley, in reference to your comparative analysis from item 3-1, the taillight housing plastic, to the clear and red plastic pieces of debris from plastic debris from item 7-18.18, the clothing of Mr. O'Keefe, what types of instruments did you utilize in this comparative analysis?
Sure. So after completing my examination, I utilized a comparison microscope as well as a polarized microscope, a FTIR, which is a Fourier transform infrared spectrometer. And I also used a microspectrophotometer, also known as a microspec.
And what is a microspec?
So a microspec is an analytical tool that we can use to examine samples that have color. So it provides information on the sample's dyes and pigments.
And how is that utilized in your comparative analysis?
So I ran samples from both items that I was comparing, and I compared the data from those two items as a part of my comparative analysis.
And when you run that sort of data, can you describe for the jury sort of what that data looks like? Like what are you physically seeing when you're examining the data from a microspec?
So what we refer to it as a spectrum or just a graph. And when we do the comparison, we can overlay those spectra or graph to determine if they are consistent or not consistent.
And I know you spoke a little bit about it in your testimony yesterday, but if you could remind the jury as far as an FTIR, what is that and how is that used in your analysis?
So an FTIR is another analytical tool that we can use. A sample is exposed to infrared light and it reacts in a certain way with that light. And what's produced is a spectrum of peaks and valleys that are representative and unique to your sample. And so that instrument was used to run samples from both items, and then the data was compared from both items.
Now, from your comparison of starting with the clear plastic from the debris from Mr. O'Keefe's clothing, from your comparative analysis of that clear plastic to the clear plastic from item 3-1, the taillight, what did you conclude?
So the clear plastic from the debris was found to be consistent in color and instrumental properties to the clear plastic from the taillight. So accordingly, the clear plastic from the debris could have originated from the clear plastic from the taillight or from another source with the same characteristics.
And with reference to the red plastic from item 7-18.18 from Mr. O'Keefe's clothing, in your comparison of that red plastic with the red plastic from the passenger side taillight of the defendant's vehicle, item 3-1, what did you conclude from that analysis?
So the red plastic that I sampled from item from the debris from the clothing from 7-18.18 was found to be consistent in color, microscopic appearance, and instrumental properties with the portions that I sampled from the red plastic from the taillight. So accordingly, the red plastic from item 7-18.18 could have originated from the red plastic that I sampled from the taillight or from another source with the same characteristics.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, if I could just hold on 1 minute while the sirens pass. May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes. Actually, is this a good time to take a break, Mr. Riley?
Entirely up to the court. I probably have another 3-4 minutes left.
I'm going to see counsel for 2 minutes, folks.
She wants to see him for 2 minutes. Uh-oh. What are we doing here? So, let's see what happens. Okay. Chat, we're making some good time tonight. Oh, yeah. She's like, short breaks. She's like, we're going to take short breaks. 30 minutes later. 40 minutes later. 50 minutes late. Like, we're just like, you know, we're ending. Okay. Nearly an hour later. Over an hour later. What I want to know is what happened in that time frame. What happened in that time frame? So I want to know. That's kind of what I want to know there. Yeah, she doesn't have to lie if the cops already dumped a bunch of shit on her table. Yep. So there we go. So let's see here. Okay.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Riley.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Go, Lally.
Ms. Hanley, when we left off, you were discussing the comparative analysis you did between item 7-18.18, Mr. O'Keefe's clothing, and item 3-1, the taillight housing or the plastic within the taillight housing of the defendant's car, correct?
Correct.
And there were a number of different instruments that you used through the course of your examination and analysis, correct?
That's correct.
And what were those instruments that you used again in that portion of the analysis?
Sure. So I used a polarized light microscope, a comparison microscope, an FTIR, and a microspec.
And Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Showing you 3 documents, if you could review those a couple of minutes, please. And do you recognize those?
Yes, I do.
And starting with the first page of that 3 pages, what do you recognize that?
It is the FTIR comparison data for the clear plastic from item 3-1 and the clear plastic from item 7-18.18.
If I could direct your attention to the second page within that, what do you recognize that?
So this is also FTIR comparison data from for the red plastic from item 3-1 and item 7-18.18.
And lastly, the third page within that set, what do you recognize that?
So this is the comparison data from the microspec from the red plastic from the item 3-1 and the red plastic from 7-18.18.
Your Honor, the Commonwealth will seek to introduce and admit as the next 3 exhibits individually. No objection, Your Honor.
Right. Thank you.
You want them marked individually or you did a set?
Individually, please. Thank you.
It's 202, 203, and 204.
Thank you.
And again, Ms. Hanley, when it came to your analysis of the clear plastic material from the debris from John O'Keefe's clothing and the clear plastic material from the defendant's taillight, what were your conclusions from that analysis?
Sure. Upon comparison, the clear plastic from item 7-18.18 was found to be consistent in color and instrumental properties with the clear plastic from item 3-1. Accordingly, the clear plastic from 7-18.18 could have originated from the clear plastic from item 3-1 or from another source with the same characteristics.
Thank you. Your Honor, may I publish, and I'm sorry, I forgot already the
Yes.
exhibit numbers, but
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have the clear plastic. And Ms. Hanley, can you describe for the jury what we're looking at in this, what's up on the screen right now?
Sure. So this is the FTIR comparison data of the clear plastic from item 3-1 and the clear plastic from item 7-18.18.
And Ms. Hanley, if you could, using the laser pointer before you, if you could direct the jury's attention to which is which as far as the top and bottom.
Sorry. The top,
That's okay.
the top spectrum is item 3-1, and the bottom spectrum is item 7-18.18.
And Ms. Hanley, when you're comparing these two as far as the data that you receive, what is it specifically that you're looking at in your comparison as far as the data is concerned?
So when I'm comparing the spectra, I'm looking at the peaks in each sample to determine if they are consistent or not consistent.
Thank you. And if I could turn your attention to the red plastic material from the debris from Mr. O'Keefe's clothing and the red plastic from the passenger side taillight of the defendant's
What the hell
vehicle,
happened
what
there?
did
I
you
was about to
conclude
say.
in your analysis there?
So upon comparison, the red plastic from 7-18.18 was
I
found to be
agree.
consistent in color,
I agree.
microscopic appearance, and instrumental properties.
What do
with
the other ones
red
look like?
plastic from item 3-1. So accordingly, the red plastic from 7-18.18 could have originated from the red plastic from item 3-1 or from another source with the same characteristics.
Thank you. And Ms. Gilman, if I could have the red plastic data. And Ms. Hanley, directing your attention to the screen again with the laser pointer, if you could delineate for the jury as far as which set of data is associated with which item.
So the top spectrum is item 3-1 and the bottom spectrum is item 7-18.18.
And again, if you could just direct the jury's attention with that laser pointer to the areas as far as the data peaks and valleys that you're looking at in comparison of this data.
So when I'm comparing them, I'm comparing the peaks to each other in each of the spectra to determine if they are consistent or not consistent.
And in this case, you found them to be consistent. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And Ms. Gilman, lastly, if I could have the microspec data. And Ms. Hanley, if you could describe for the jury, please, what are we looking at in this particular data set?
So this is the comparison data from the microspec of the red plastic from item 3-1 and the red plastic from 7-18.18.
And as far as the data in any microspec, but particularly this one up on the screen, using that laser pointer, could you illustrate to the jury sort of what these individual lines or what this data means?
So these are the samples that I ran, and they samples that I ran from item 3-1 and 7-18.18, and the spectra are overlaid in order to determine to look at it and to determine whether they have a consistent or not consistent pattern.
And from overlaying the data from the pieces of plastic from Mr. O'Keefe's clothing and the pieces of plastic from the defendant's taillight, what do you observe as far as from overlaying those two sort of data points?
So I determined that they had consistent microspec data.
Again, if you could just remind the jury as far as the microspec data, what type of data is that?
So the microspec, it analyzes samples that have color. So it provides information of a sample's dyes or pigments.
Thank you very much. Ms. Gilman, you can take that down. Thank you, Ms. Hanley. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Ms. Hanley.
Good afternoon.
Nice to see you again. We met about a year ago. First things first, you were just talking about
That was not a positive. Huh. That's panic.
some plastic pieces in 7-18.8, correct?
It was 7-18.18.
0.18. I left the one out. 7-18.18. We're dealing with a lot of numbers. I'm going to see if we can cut through that here in a second. First of all, you indicated that you were doing a comparative analysis in different, sort of different categorical ways, using microscopy, using the microspec, using the FTIR. I think you also use the FTIR in that as well.
Yes.
And you indicated that your analysis concluded with those pieces could have come from the same source, from the source in 3-1, the taillight. But you're not conclusively saying they did, correct?
It could have come from, they could have a common origin, or it could have come from another source with the same characteristics.
Right. So in other words, another way to say that, Ms. Hanley, is it may have come from the taillight, may not have.
It's a possibility.
Okay. I also want to ask you real quick about the taillight manufacturer. You were shown an exhibit. I think it's exhibit 200, and I think we have that available. With the court's permission, we don't have to cut the lights. I think the lighting is just fine. This is exhibit, or a photograph of exhibit 200 that you saw just a second ago. Quick question about that. In your inspection of that taillight, it's true, is it not, that is manufactured entirely of plastic or plasticine pieces? There is no glass in that taillight, correct?
I have to check my notes. I don't think I noted any glass.
Okay. So in other words, you didn't note any glass inherent in the manufacture of that taillight. It's basically plastic.
Yeah, I think most of
Once again, we're speaking in parlance. It's glass.
the parts were plastic. I'm not 100% sure if the entire thing was plastic. There may have been other material, but portions were plastic.
But you certainly didn't see any glass inherent in the manufacture process.
I'd have to double check my notes, but I don't think I did.
Okay.
Do you want her to check her notes?
Why don't you? Are your notes in front of you?
Yes.
With the court's permission.
Yes, sure.
Okay, so I did not make any notation that I noted portions that were glass.
Great. Final point before we get into the actual analysis. On any of the glass, I want to shift gears to just the glass material that you analyzed and that you looked at and you inspected. You saw no blood, no skin, no biological material, no tissue, human tissue or otherwise, on any of those pieces that you inspected, did you?
Upon examination of those items, making observations of those types of material, that's not my area of expertise. I don't think I noted anything that was maybe consistent with that.
So in other words, even though you're not in the bio material expert section of the lab, you certainly would have noted if there was skin or biological material or obvious blood on glass pieces. You're looking at them in many cases through stereo microscope, correct?
Yes, I would have made note of observations of anything that I would have noted on the surface.
Great, and you did not, because you didn't see anything. You suggested that, right?
I think I just made note, I'm gonna have to check each item, but I think I did note that there was some dirt debris on some of the items.
But not biological material.
I did not note anything that would be maybe consistent with that.
Great, thank you. I want to talk about the comparisons that you did. And you'll forgive me, I'm a visual learner. So I'd like to talk about it in 4 categories.
Okay.
Linear categories. Category 1, item 3-2. Category 2, item 3-3. Category 3, item 7-12. Category 4, item 7-14. 3-2, 3-3, 7-12, 7-14. Can we talk about it in those particulars?
Sure,
Okay. 3-2.
All righty, here we go.
Correct?
that's correct.
Okay. And I'm going to use the word cup rather than glass for obvious reasons. You can get confused by that. So when I say the cup, do you know what I'm talking about?
Item 3-2.
Great. 3-3 are the 5 items that were found on the bumper, claimed to have been found on the bumper by MSP or crime. Okay?
Yes,
5 items, A, B, C, D, and E, correct?
correct.
Item 7-12 are 9 items, glass items, that were recovered at 34 Fairview by Trooper Buchanan in an evidence envelope, correct?
So sustained as to who they were recovered from.
Sure. Did you receive the items along with an evidence envelope?
I need to double check if it was an envelope, but I received it packaged.
Okay. And the packaging normally, under normal circumstances, the packaging comes with labels. It gives you reference about where things came from. For instance, when Mr. Lally asked you, were you aware or did you become aware that items were claimed to have been found on the bumper? You didn't actually find those items, but that was the description you were getting, correct?
That was the description of the item in our limb system.
Okay. And going back to 7-12, that's our third category. Was that described as 9 pieces of glass that were found at 34 Fairview by a sergeant by the name of Buchanan? Or do you recall that?
I am not sure who recovered them.
Well, what it said on the evidence envelope, that's what I'm asking.
I would have to check my photos to see if it says that.
We'll get to that in just a second, but fair enough. 7-12, 9 items, A, B, C, D, E. And if my memory serves, I, K, and L.
And I'd have to refer to my notes to,
Can you please?
yes. So the 9 pieces of glass from 712 were labeled A, B, C, D, E, F, I, K, and L.
Great. And then finally,
Okay.
what was in 714, that's an easy one, 1 piece of glass.
That's correct.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Yeah. Nobody's as jumpy as they look, guys. We're at 1.25 speed.
If I could, Ms. Hanley, I'm going to hand you photographs. That should be 2 photographs of the exact same thing. Do you recognize what's depicted in that photograph?
I've never seen, I did not take this photo.
Understood.
So I'm not, I haven't seen them, so I don't know.
So I'm asking you, look, I know you haven't seen
Yeah.
that photo. Does it look like the cup?
It looks consistent with the cup.
Okay. Let's set this one aside for a second. Take a look at the second photo. Do you recognize what's depicted in that photo?
So I did not take this photo. It appears to be a photo of a container that another analyst took a photo of item 7-12.
And item 7-12 once again included plastic pieces and 9 glass pieces, correct?
Correct.
Do you see the evidence label on the very top of that evidence envelope?
I'm not sure which label you're talking
The
about.
one
Oh,
under the red tape.
yes.
Does that appear to be a label marker that's done to maintain chain of custody?
So I think that label.
What? What?
Sure, can you bring these over to the side?
Sure.
What? What? Oh my gosh. All right, let's get to this ass kicking here, Alan.
Sometimes we're at Sidebar in an effort to try and speed things up. So even though we take your time that way, this should make things move a little easier.
Let's keep going here, chat. Let's see what they got.
Ms. Hanley, I was asking you.
They're making good progress here. I agree.
we already looked at what's been marked for identification as triple G. I was asking you about what has now been marked as triple H. If you'll just look at that, what I'm most interested in is, do you see a name, the trooper's name in the middle of that evidence bag?
Yes, I do.
Is that Buchanan?
It looks like it says that, yeah.
Okay, and just so we're clear, that bag is associated with 7-12 of your analysis. The item 7-12, correct?
Yes, again, I didn't take this photo, but I have, yeah.
It says 7-12
Yeah.
right in front of it.
Yes, yeah.
That's all I need. Taking a look at what's been marked as triple I for identification. Do you see a name associated with that evidence bag?
Yes.
What name is that?
It's actually a little hard to read. It looks like it says, it could say Trooper Proctor.
Okay, and that is associated with 7-14, our fourth category, correct?
It is labeled as, excuse me, 7-14.
Thank you. And finally, does that, which has been marked as, for identification at least, as triple J, does that appear to be the contents of that bag, which is a single piece of glass in 7-14?
This appears to be the photo that the analyst prior to me took of item 7-14.
And that would be analyst Villiers.
Correct.
You see her initials there.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the four categories, just so we're clear and we can stop using so many numbers because they can get confusing. 3-2 is the cup, right?
Yes,
3-3 is the bumper glass, correct?
that is correct.
7-12 is the Buchanan glass, correct? You just looked at it,
Yes,
okay? 7-14 is the Proctor glass, the single piece, correct?
correct.
So when I make reference to those items by those names, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I'm
yes.
hesitant.
No, I'm just used to referring to them to the item numbers, but I will try to stay with you.
My brain will melt if we continue that way.
Can you do it both, Mr. Jackson?
Sure. Any way that you wish. I have another document that I would like to approach with, if I could, with court permission. Okay. Thank you. I'd like you to take a look at that. You've got a copy of this. Have you ever seen that before, or a variation of it?
Yes.
Okay. Saw it last year, correct, or something close to it last year?
Yeah, it looks consistent.
Okay.
Okay. If there are any others, Mr. Jackson.
Come on,
we'll go
Lally.
This is it.
Ah. Like, what was so bad about this? Like, let's get to it. Like, let's do this. Come on.
Gave somebody the copy that I was using. I need a copy.
Okay, let's go.
If I may approach?
Yes. Thank you. All right, so let's mark this first for identification.
Happy to.
To the KKK for ID.
Ms. Hanley, if I could ask you very briefly, I want to go through this chalk with you for a moment. Do you recognize something on the left? Look at the first category. Do you see 3-2?
Yes,
How is that described?
it's described as a cup.
Okay, and you see that there's a photographic representation of the cup just above it, correct?
It looks consistent with,
Okay. Moving to the second category. What category is that?
it's item 3-3.
And 3-3, first of all, there's a photograph above it. Do you see that?
Yes,
It appears to be of a bumper, correct?
yes,
You didn't take that picture.
I did not.
Okay, let's look down beneath it. You indicated that there were 5 items in 3-3, A, B, C, D, and E, correct?
Correct.
Do you see A, B, C, D, and E represented in that category on this chart?
I do see A, B, C, D, E categorized. Yes,
Great. Under A, you previously testified that the bumper glass sub A in 3-3 did not match the cup, correct?
that's correct.
Did not match anything in 7-12?
Sorry, just give me one moment. That's correct.
And did not match anything in 7-14?
That's correct.
And you see those represented by sort of the international symbol for negative, correct? A circle with a line through it. Correct?
Yes,
Okay. Under subcategory B, glass B, or item 3-3B, did not match the cup, did not match 7-12, did not match 7-14.
That's
Is
correct.
that accurately represented on the chart?
Yes.
Finally, with regard to E as an echo in that same item, 3-3, you see that there is a green indication that glass recovered by Proctor does match, or did match in your analysis, or was consistent with the item in 7-14, correct?
It was consistent microscopically and instrumentally.
Does that accurately reflect that finding on this chart?
Yes.
Okay, now turning to category 3. There were 9 pieces of glass that you looked at, correct?
Correct.
A through F, I, K, and L. Is that right?
If I could just reference my report to make sure.
Of course.
Yes, those are the correct letters.
And A, B, C, D, F, and K all matched the cup, correct?
Again, I would just need to confirm with my report.
Take your time.
Yes, so A, B, C, D, F, and K
All matched the cup.
had a physical match to 3-2, the cup.
Is that accurately represented on this chart? With green.
Yes.
And E is an echo, I is in India, and I think that's L is in Lima, did not match the cup, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, is that accurately represented on this chart?
Yes.
And finally, last category, 7-14, that is a single piece of glass that was recovered by Trooper Proctor. That did not match the cup, and it did not match anything in 7-12, correct?
That's correct. Remember, all this shit's not matching, guys. This is the big deal. Why does none of this match?
Yes, that's correct.
Is that accurately represented on the chart?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would move for the admission with the amendment that the court indicated at sidebar of triple K.
Okay, I'm going to allow it in.
205.
205? Your Honor, the court indicated it would like to see us before anything published to the jurors.
Hey, come on over for a second. Actually, have those have those been done?
It has been done. And I was going to explain at sidebar.
All right, then come on over.
All right, well. Yes, this means the glass Proctor had didn't match anything, and that's hilarious. Like I said, chat, this becomes now an issue of there's just pieces of glass floating around Canton, Massachusetts. So you'd have to believe that, or do you have to believe, wow, these guys stuck glass in there? So the glass on the bumper doesn't match the glass. Yeah, that's a big problem. So I'm kind of shocked she allowed this. Yeah, well, sometimes she's not the smartest woman in the world, so shit slips through. It can slip through. So.
On the screen,
Yes.
is that consistent?
Paul's sitting there like, when you look at Paul O'Keefe, he's like, Paul not allowed glass. Paul only allowed sippy cup. Paul's sad. Paul not allowed like big kids. Ooh, now we got a slide. Here we go.
Actually, what's been marked as Exhibit 205 in evidence on the screen.
Yes.
Is that consistent with what you and I were just talking about at the witness stand?
Yes.
If you'll direct your attention to the screen on the right, just because it's a little easier and I think the laser pointer shows up a little better.
Ah! Holy shit. This is good. This is good. This is an exhibit, chat. Notice all that bullshit while Lally was talking. This, oh my God, this is phenomenal. Now we're talking. Now we're talking.
You see the 4 categories represented in this exhibit?
Yes.
Okay, so 3-2, I'm going to go over it very quickly one more time, just visually. 3-2 on the left is the cup, correct?
Yes.
3-3 represents the 5 pieces of glass, of what we call the bumper glass, A, B, C, D, and E, correct?
Yes.
7-12 is the 9 pieces of glass recovered by Trooper Buchanan at 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes.
And finally, 7-14 is the single piece of glass recovered by Trooper Proctor, correct?
Yes.
Taking these one by one, just so everybody see. Taking these one by one, looking at starting with the bumper glass, category 2. Piece A did not match the cup, anything in 712 or anything in 714, correct?
That's correct.
Piece B did not match the cup, did not match anything in 712, did not match anything in 714, correct?
That's correct.
And moving over to category 3, there were some matches in these 9 items, 6 of them, A, B, C, D, F, and K, correct?
Yes.
But what those matched, Ms. Hanley, were the cup, nothing on the bumper, correct?
Correct.
And what didn't match the cup were E, I, and L. Is that right?
That's correct.
Moving back to category 2, however, there was one thing, item E, that did match something in this series of categories. Isn't that right?
Not a physical match, but instrumentally there was consistency.
All right. And this was an item, the only piece of bumper glass, the only piece of bumper glass to match anything else in your analysis. Matched what? It was consistent with what?
So item 3-3, piece E, was consistent in physical and instrumental properties with the sample that I took from item 7-14.
Which is the single piece of glass recovered by Michael properly, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But not a single piece of glass, nothing that you analyzed coming from that bumper matched the cup. Did it? Nothing.
Physical match comparison. There was no physical match comparison to the cup.
You didn't do a spectrometer comparison either. Ooh. So why is there random glass on the car? Remember, chat, now it is. There's just random glass all over Canton, Massachusetts. Totally makes sense, huh? I guess.
Are we done with this, Mr. Jackson?
We can take this down, Your Honor.
Yeah, so random glass. It happens. Just rains glass everywhere. Just random glass in the yards all over.
Your Honor, that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Wiley?
Jet says it's from the accident. What accident? Are you talking about where Karen hit John's car? You understand automotive glass is a far different type of glass, right? It would present different and would be clearly identifiable as automotive glass and distinguishable immediately. So try harder. Try harder. Yeah, you ever meet bums? They throw their bottles everywhere.
As far as
Yes, there are bums, but they're not bums walking down the street in Canton, Massachusetts. The police are going to shove those guys along, and they're not going to wander through neighborhoods. They know better.
you were asking questions on cross-examination about biological pieces or tissue or things being on the glass, and you referenced that that was done in another unit, correct?
Yes, if that type of examination was needed, that would be done in a different unit.
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow that, but next question.
Which unit would that be conducted in?
Objection.
So the objection sustained. You need more, Mr. Wiley, before you move on.
She
Now,
won't know
as
really
far
the
as-
answers to that. So
The chalk that you were just presented, as far as the 4 photographs that were depicted in there, have you ever seen any of those 4 photographs before?
No.
Do you know specifically who or where any of the items 3-2, 3-3, 7-12, or 7-4 were physically recovered from?
I just have the description that's put in the LIMS system when it's submitted to the lab.
And do you know that 3-2, the drinking glass, was recovered by the Canton Police Department on January 29, 2022?
Objection.
Mr.
Do you know that item 3-3, the bumper glass, was recovered by Ms. Maureen Hartnett from your lab
You
on
won't know.
February 1st, 2022?
Sustained.
Do you know that each of the 4 items were recovered by different people on different
Objection,
dates
Your
at different locations?
no, she won't know. Fucking stop him. Like, this is where she should be like, what the fuck are you doing, Lally? This is where she should be up his ass like, bro, what are you doing? Like, you know you can't ask these questions. So, All right. Yeah. John's like, John's like, did policeman fabricate evidence? Paul confused. Yes. Suffer, Peg! Suffer. Jeff says, you can ask any question within reason. No, you can't. There are rules of evidence. You can't ask any question within reason. Clearly, he couldn't. It wasn't allowed to. So, not correct. Not correct.
Ms. Hanley, from your
Try books.
conclusions, that
Stop mocking him, please. Like, because it's not good, or do you need me to do better, or what?
you testified about before, you found that the item 3-2, the drinking glass,
Right,
was
Jack,
consistent
hold on.
with 6 different pieces from item 7-12 that were found in the roadway outside of 34 Fairview Road, correct?
That's correct.
And you also found that piece E from item 3-3, the bumper glass, was consistent with the single piece from item 7-14 that was found in the roadway outside of 34 Fairview Road. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And you also found that items from 7-18.18, the debris from Mr. O'Keefe's clothing, were consistent with the item 3-1, the taillight housing, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained as to form.
Now, as far as the chalk that you were presented with on cross-examination, was there anything in there about item 7-18.18 or item 3-1, either the taillight housing or the debris from Mr. O'Keefe's clothing?
No, there was not.
Nothing further.
Anything?
Very briefly. So in sum, not a single piece of glass on that bumper could be connected to that cup, correct?
There was no physical match to the pieces that I compared for physical match from the bumper. There was no physical match to the glass cup 3-2.
Thank you. So another way of saying that is not a single piece of glass that you analyzed on that bumper match.
The debris on the clothing, but why is there... Okay, there's debris on clothing. But if there's random glass getting shown up, how does the debris get on the clothing? Doesn't make sense. So... Try about saying, oh, you lost a brother, have a heart. I understand, and that's all you want to say. You can... I'm okay with that. Sure. So... So, Spoony Samurai says, you'd be surprised what gets plowed up in the yards. Yeah, like glass that might get on John O'Keefe. Dun da da. Ta-da. So there you go.
Sustained.
But the one piece of glass that did match something came from the same source, it was consistent with coming from the same source as the single piece of glass recovered or in possession of or bagged by Trooper Michael Proctor, correct?
It was consistent with item 7-14.
That's all.
All right, Ms. Hanley, you are all set. I'm going to see counsel for a minute. Attorneys, feel free to stand up and stretch.
So this kind of put things like, if you really want to believe there was glass on John, why is there glass that doesn't fit in the entire situation? Like, what's your explanation for that out there, Jeff? You kind of have to have one. How did all this shit get to where it wasn't supposed to be? Remember, the burn's on the state, so how did it get there? Because right now it sounds like somebody planted evidence and tried to shore up a case that they thought might be shaky. Just saying. Just saying. So we'll see where they're at here. I think we're wrapping up chat, so let's get to it.
All right, so jurors, I know you don't like it when we're at sidebar. We don't like it when we're at sidebar, but I can tell you that after speaking to the lawyers now, we're ahead of schedule. And they've worked very hard to get us to this point where we're ahead of schedule so that tomorrow, instead of being a half a day, you have tomorrow off. So you have tomorrow and Friday, a good long weekend. It's very, very important Do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't say a word about this case. Don't let anybody say anything to you about this case. Don't do any independent research or investigation into this case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case,
We'll
please
talk about this,
disregard it.
Funky.
Let us know. I
I'll
believe
talk about
next
this.
week,
Good
except for
question.
Thursday or full days every day. Watch your social media use this weekend as well. Have a great long weekend. We'll see you here Tuesday morning, ready to go.
Court, all rise for the jury.
100% they're going to talk and do research. Yes, I agree. 100%.
Goodbye.
So 100%. So also, Dry Books, I heard what you said, and you know what? I will refrain from making fun of him as much as I'll make fun of Paul because he looks like an idiot. But I will, if you don't like me here and telling him to suffer, I won't do that. I can respect that. So, no independent research, yeah, allowed. They do whatever the hell they want. They do whatever they want. Like, come on.
So no one needs to see me about anything? We get cleared.
Put on record that with remarks as actually been entered into evidence 205, we're in the process of printing a new one. The one that actually went into evidence is not the one that you showed.
Okay.
Instructions. We'll get that printed to you. I think before we leave, I think he's printing it now.
All right. I'd like it before we leave. So before you leave. So, all right. All right. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, court, all rise.
So, all right. So, chat, we're all done. Day 20 in the bag. No trial until Tuesday. So, we've got tomorrow night, and you guys are new here. We do our normal Thursday night show on Thursdays because it wouldn't be the Thursday night show. Get to hang out on Thursdays, get to talk about stuff that's going on. We'll do some Kieran Reed recap. There's a bunch of other stuff to talk about that's actually kind of important right now. There's the fake electors case out of Arizona seems to have completely disintegrated. There was a big jailbreak in New Orleans that we're going to take a look at. The Diddy trial, there's a lot of information out there. We're probably going to recap a bunch of stuff in the Diddy case because it's weird, man. There's some other stuff we'll get to also. A U.S. admiral got indicted for taking kickbacks and kind of doing the shit that, we don't want to see government officials do. But we'll get to that. I think it's a very interesting case. There's other stuff we'll get to, but that is tomorrow night starting at 9:30. Hope to see you there. Friday night, we are going to do Russell Greer. If you guys don't know Russell Greer is, come by. It's going to be a great time. I have the audio of his court hearing, so it's going to be great. It's going to be good. You're going to love it. Oh, you're going to like it because the hood going to love it. Where's the body cam footage? That is on the way. K. Patrick says the Admiral took kickbacks. Yes, but this guy got in trouble for it. So maybe it's a start. So Hashtag says, get your P.O. box. I will. I try to hold off everything until Thursday because I think it gives us something to do together. Zaku says, hope you and 2.0 have a fantastic night. Yes. Are you planning on talking about the Safer Hearing Act and the short bill and the reconciliation? Yes. That's an update now about the the NFA bills going through, which I hope works, and we'll get the information there. Ski Man saying, is it 9:30 p.m. UK time for once? No, 9:30 Eastern time in America. But yes, Hashtag, I'm looking forward to it. So let's see here. Let's see, what do we got? Okay, so we got some comments to get through. So they collected non-evidence. Well, Sue, that's not an issue that you collect everything you think is relevant and then you sort it out. But the problem is, on the car, we're finding pieces of non-evidence. That's the red flag. Tootly Pip says, yes, we too. Yes, unlike those peasants in Scotland and in England, they have glasses in their pubs. As your Night Terror says, she is our artistic puzzle queen. Yes. Funky Monkey is saying, what's that thing on the lady's mouth? Okay, it's called a steno mask. And I know I mentioned this before. It is the thing here. We're just going to go through it real quick just so you guys can see one. If you guys have never seen it before, it's a court reporter. So instead of tippy-tappy, 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 tippy-tap, There is a steno mask, and this is going to be a good explanation of how it works here. So we're just going to watch this again real quick. Perfect. That'll work.
Let's focus on another feature of the McLaughlin courtroom: special technology available to the stenographer. In the McLaughlin courtroom, we have the three major methods of making a court record, which are stenotype, voice writing, and digital recording. The court reporter writes in real time.
Now, this is the traditional way you guys think about court reporters doing their work, and that's the traditional way.
Which means as she presses the keys on the stenotype machine, which is actually a computer, the electronic impulses of the keys are matched.
The older stenotype machines just spit out a paper tape. It's kind of interesting to watch them go. It's like a little machine gun just spitting out the belts.
To words in her dictionary or database and translated into English almost simultaneously. She has entered all the words in the dictionary in the way that she writes each word. In an average day of court, a court reporter would write approximately 55,000 strokes at approximately 4 words per second and faster. The stenotype machine, or in this case, the Diamante computerized writer that the reporter is using today, is made by a stenograph corporation.
So that's how that's how the typer thing works. But here's another way.
Voice writing is where the court reporter uses a stenomask that is connected to a computer, and the reporter repeats every word that is said, who said it, including punctuation and formatting instructions, into the mask, which silences the voice so as to not be heard in the courtroom. With the use of software and a speech recognition
So that's how that works. And they talk about now they use speech software
engine such as Dragon Naturally Speaking or IBM Via Voice, the reporter's words are translated into English. Only the reporter's voice will be recognized because the reporter has spent considerable time training the speech engine to recognize his or her voice. Some software manufacturers of stenotype software make the voice writing software as well. We also have FTR, for the record.
Now, guys, for the record is actually what most courtrooms like around here now. In Cuyahoga County, they have a ton of court reporters. But if you go to the rural areas that I go to, most courtrooms just have a recording running. So when you're watching a Karen Reed here, this and you can tell when they're using things in the Karen Reed trial, like you can. I want to show you guys, see if I could show you this. Hold on here. Okay, this is a good example. When we're watching the Karen Reed trial, you guys see this little clock thing here. This is actually kind of like when I'm in the courtrooms I'm in, that clock is tied to the reporter, the recording system. So, like the trial I had a couple weeks ago, it was all recorded audio. It was audio recording. There was no court reporter. So that's how that works. And I've been in court before where we're sitting there talking, and instead of seeing time, it's just line. That means it's not running. And I've had to say, Your Honor, wait, we're not on the record. And they go, oops, yeah, we're not. Or there's some issue with the recording device. And they're able to fix it pretty quickly. But that's actually this idea of just having an audio recording is very common, at least around here. This lady, a court reporter, is costly because she types a transcript regardless. This, an audio recording, is cheap because you could have 1 million audio recordings. And then the ones you need a transcript for, you can get. So, Rucker says, is that not QWERTY? No. It's a stenographic keyboard is not, it's not how that's set up. So, a modern stenotype, this is what you're looking at. This is a steno keyboard. That is it's not QWERTY. It's not QWERTY. It's 1 million times faster. they can work so goddamn fast, and they don't use QWERTY. They can hit a bunch of them at the same time. You know, and they can do 4 words a second. They are very good. They are very, very, very good. So Funky Monkey, I hope that answers your questions. If it didn't, let me know. We'll try to get back. We'll answer more if we have to. Dragon, naturally speaking, what is this, 2003? Well, it's had a lot more refinement. And here's the thing. Dragon, naturally speaking, in 2003 would not have been reliable enough for court. It would have sucked. It took 20 years of getting it better. So it's a passive listening device. I mean, I don't know if I call it that, but this lady invented LLMs. Rutgers says, I didn't know this was technical. Oh, it's very technical. To be a court reporter, it is actually like court reporters are in very high demand. They make pretty good money, and it's not an easy thing to do. So, can the voice translate Scottish accents? I don't think so. So if we see clocks they're using for the record, yeah, there's also JAVs. When you see that clock, there's some sort of electronic recording device. And for a case like this, that's actually a good idea to have multiple things set up. Does that clock line up with the Lexus? I don't know. Very funny, though. Yeah, it's typographic shorthand. And when you guys see what it looks like, I think there's going to be a picture here. Yeah, this is kind of like a typical layout for one of those keyboards. This is what your layout looks like. The common, this is the, this does most of what you need to do. And then here's what it looks like when you get, if you were to just intercept the file without it being translated, that's what it would look like. Just gobbledygook. You have no idea what the hell that means. But a court reporter or somebody who's trained in shorthand would be able to look at that and translate it for you. So there we go. Do the court reporters type recorded transcripts? So yes, Brittany, the way it works, and that's actually a good question. So, for example, let's say you're in a courtroom where they only record it. The transcript itself is what's the controlling document. You need that. That's the record. So, for example, that trial I had, if my guy wants to appeal it, what would happen is the court would then contact a court reporter that it uses, they contract with, and they would say, hey, court reporter, we're sending you an audio file. How long is it going to take you to do it? And they start, listening to it, and they'll listen to it and just boop, 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 and then translate it and make it listenable or readable. So that's what you do with the transcript. So yes, they can listen to recordings. So QWERTY was designed to make typewriters stop from jamming. I didn't know that. They make you type slower. 300 words a minute is doable. Yeah, like there are, that said though, there are times where, and I used to have this problem when I first started. You might say, wow, this doesn't seem like, or you might say I talk fast now. I had a problem for the first couple of years as an attorney. I'd fucking just like a fucking machine gun. And there were times where court reporters were like, slow the fuck down, because I would talk and I would start to, I guess, they call it eating your words. And I kind of keep them in the back of my mouth, and then I'd mumble it a little bit, and then you're going fast and you're eating the word, mumbling, it kind of just turns into a mess. So they tell me slow down, and I've had to work on my speaking. But yes, they can, if you can, generally speaking, as long as you're clear and concise, they can keep up. So, finishing right as the casino's about to open. Yeah. Yes, the stenograph's typing is based around the sounds of words. Yeah, it's a little different than normal. And what I will tell you guys, when you talk to court reporters, and I've talked to a bunch of them before, they're basically just kind of like it's all in one ear out the other. Just do 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 do. So it's very interesting how they do it. Pre-2000, I knew a court reporter who made more than $200K a year. I could see that. In depositions, like there, you know, if you're highly sought after, you can do a lot. Oh, okay. By passive listening, I mean it's audio only. Yes. Yes. The steno mask is not typing. My friend's mom's a stenographer and she just makes about the poverty line. Is that normal or is she just lazy? She might not be doing a lot, but you also might live in a market where there's a ton of them. It all depends. It all depends. No, you're welcome for the tutorial. Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting thing. Snoop says a court reporter is different. Yes. Well, they're both considered court reporters. Okay. They would consider themselves a court reporter, but yes, one who could stenographically type using a stenographic keyboard is in a different league than the people who could talk. But the people who type probably can't talk. You have to learn how to do it. You have to learn how to do it. In Alabama, they can make like $60K. Yeah. So. Eating your words, no way. Well, I know. Char. Yes. Let's see here. So wait 5 years for the H-1B recorders. Yeah. Sir, I objected, sir. No, sir, do not admit that exhibit. No, sir, why do you do that? Well, yes, and this is different than secretaries who type like on a steno pad, a stenographer pad, and actually take dictation and shorthand. That's completely different. Yes. No one cared who I was until I put on the steno mask. It fixes local municipal courts are pretty tight budget-wise in most places. Yeah. Yep. It's very true. Very, very, very true. Ski Man says, this is something AI is going to put out of jobs eventually? Probably, but not till long after I quit practicing law. Like, not in the next 50 years. Probably within 50 years, maybe. But not soon. I mean, this... Here's a good example. This right here is a transcript, right? It's probably not going away with, you know, actual human intervention for a long time. I could see in 50 years this becoming something this is just one hearing, you guys. This is actually one hearing. And yeah, it's one hearing and it's 100 and actual talking is 100 and actual pages of talking here. This wasn't a super long hearing. It was actually like we got to do like I do a lot of like took it like well, actually this one was a long one, but we have 133 pages and you know that's not including the indexes or anything really. There's not a whole lot. Like it's 133 pages of just talking. So it's not going away anytime soon. Not going away anytime soon. Eventually, yes, but not right now. So, do they hire people to type out recorded transcripts from home? There are companies that outsource that stuff, yeah. But you have to still get certified and all that to be a court reporter. Here, employees or court reporters are not employees of the court; they're self-employed. Yeah, but as we learned from like the ASAP Rocky trial, out there, the court reporters are government employees and are unionized. The ones in the court, so it can happen. Will Governor Vivek make H-1B mandatory in Ohio? I hope not. I hope not. Most speeches are 1 minute of speech. Yeah, but we did a lot more than 1 minute of speech there, let me tell you. There was a lot of talking. That hearing went a long time. So, I'll type out transcripts and do research from home. How do you get gigs like that? I mean, you can start inquiring. I mean, it is a thing out there, being able to transcribe stuff. So you should hire a stenographer when you and 2.0 argue, so you can read back when she's wrong. That's a brilliant idea. We need to read that back. So, wait, how is that transcript bound? Oh, it's bound like, I mean, it's not like fancy binding, but it's, a lot more fancier than a staple. It's bound it's bound with like those little tabs you can fold over and stuff. So, transcribing depots from home is big out by me. That's another way to do it. Yeah, another big way to do it. Let's see here. So yes, I agree with this, Mike. You said the grain of rice splintering from a 24-mile-an-hour crash. Yeah, I think that was bullshit too. I think that's bullshit too. And then Gangster Computer God says, good trial lawyers are usually over the top. You want the jurors paying attention. I agree, you do. You do very, very much. B. Jefferson says, so the glass Proctor had didn't match anything. That's hilarious. I know, it's very weird. It's very weird. It's very weird. Funny Monkey is asking another question here. Do the jurors not like sidebars? It's not that they don't like them, but there's probably visible frustration on the jurors' faces every time there's a sidebar, and sometimes when it's a 5-minute long sidebar. Like that like the judge can see the frustration on their faces. Like they're like, oh fuck. Or they're like, they're just like, God damn it. Like they remember they're stuck there. So like they want this shit to go. And Bev's trying to tell them like, hey guys, it's okay. It's all right. It's part of the process. Yeah, sometimes sidebars are quick. Sometimes sidebars might be 5-10 minutes. It happens. It happens. So, but yeah, that's typically an issue. And I mean, especially in a case like this, most trials in America, and I don't know if you've been around for this when I mention it, Monkey. Like in America, like a murder trial, like an actual murder trial, you'll see Cleveland, Ohio is the big town by me. Or pick any state where like Birmingham, Alabama, Memphis, Tennessee, New York City, LA, Albuquerque, New Mexico, insert wherever, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Chicago. Murder trials, like maybe 3 days, 4 days, maybe. Not generally that long. The average trial in America, like a criminal trial, is about 2.5 days. It's normal. So it's one thing if you have a lot of sidebars in that. It's like, okay, well, whatever. We're on day 20. We're many weeks into this. Remember, we're many weeks into this now. We are so many weeks into this. This is week 5. This adds up. The jurors can get pissed. And especially with this, where there is a lot of technical stuff. And I mean technical within the terms of the rules of evidence going on. There's a lot of technical shit going down. Hold on. Oh, here, chat. Hold on, chat. Hold on, let me. All right, sorry. But yeah, it becomes an issue. 5 weeks of this shit. But this is a very highly technical case. A lot of evidentiary rules, and we could say what we want about Bev. But at the end of the day, still, this is a very technical case. Yeah, so this stuff can add up pretty quick. Let's see here. Noel's messaging him, who's that clown with my doggo pic? No, that's not. I'm not talking to Noel. I had a client just text me. So, Sweet Tooth Fairy says, I was on a 2-month murder trial. It sucked. Well, that does happen. But generally, you don't, like, most trials aren't super long. I was on the jury for an 11-day medical liability action trial. Yeah, there are trials that go for a while. But most don't. Most trials are not that long. Those are the exceptions, not the rule. Funky Monkey is saying, are they on the jury salary for 20 days? Yeah, you get your jury pay. Now, they do have protections, like you can't get fired from your job by being on jury duty, but, you know, I mean, you got to pay your fucking bills. Like, who's going to pay your mortgage? Who pays rent? Becomes a problem. So, $40 a day can't cut it. Nope, it can't. Nope, it can't. So, my dad was on a murder trial. Back home took 3 days. Yeah, it's pretty normal. In New York City, it takes 2 years to go to trial. It does. But the trial itself is going to be a short amount of time. Shredder S says, blam, 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 Blammingham. Blamming Blam, Alabama. Yes. So let's see here. What else you guys got? Guys, yeah, I heard about the South African president getting humiliated by Trump. It's like Trump is making it. Everybody has to come to the White House, and he just sits there and dogs them. Like, you know, Cyril Ramaphosa comes in, and I'm surprised Trump didn't go, I want to show you something. It plays Zulu. Let's talk about Rourke's Drift. Have you guys ever apologized for what you did as Londawana to the British Army? Cedar Rose has got to go. See you later. Yes. $40 is better than a lot of states. Yes. Yes, a lot of states, you don't get paid dick to be on a jury. I made $11 a day. That's not a surprise. Yeah, YSL jurors started having eviction hardships. Can I explain the objections to asking questions certain ways? Yeah, sometimes it's leading. Sometimes there's foundational issues. You haven't asked the question's necessary for that person to answer it. Now, ultimately, do I think that other party can, like, maybe they'll get to it or not? Sure. But I'm not going to give you the free gimmies. I'm going to make you've got to follow the fucking rules. I'll make you follow the rules. So sometimes there's issues about foundation where it's like, how do you know other people looked at it? Because you heard that. Lally was saying, like, do you know if other people looked? And they objected. She doesn't know what other people did or didn't do. Now, there might be times where she does know, but Lally has to say, you work in the crime lab. Are you aware of these other units? Do you know somebody Mix Villaire? Yes, blah, 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 blah. Then you can answer that question or ask that question. You have to lay the foundation for questions. So that's always an issue there. There's times where there's going to be speculation. There's going to be times where they're just touching on a subject that they think is out of bounds. I hope that answers your question. There's a lot of reasons why you would object. A lot of times it's hearsay, some form of hearsay. 803 is, the real big one. I mean, that's the big hearsay rule and the rules of evidence. And that's what we do. So, but yeah, if you go into like the rules 800 federal rules of evidence, which many states basically mirror, they might have different additions to it. Hey buddy, come here. Clyde, you literally just walked up to me. Come here, sleepy dog. Come here, sleeper dog. You just came over here. Why are you walking away? Come on, Clyde. Clyde, come on. Like, he walks over, so I turn, I'm like, oh, buddy. And he's just like, nope. He just noped you out, chat. So, So, you're on jury duty once, and the defendant on a DUI charge showed up drunk. I've had clients show up to court high as fuck before. I've had, back before weed was legal in Ohio, wasn't an issue. Walk into court, somebody just reeks of weed. I've had clients reeking of alcohol for pre-trials and stuff. Happens a lot, man. Happens a lot. People have unchecked substance abuse issues. So, in Massachusetts, the employer is required to cover a certain days of pay. Wow, that's nice. Show up Kurt's guest by bringing Clyde on. Hey, Kurt, are you coming here? I come back, I turn around. Clyde's like 2 feet away. And he's just like, I turn around. He's like, fuck you, fat man. And runs off. Like, you son of a bitch. You son of a bitch dog. I take care of you. I keep you alive for how long while 2.0's gallivanting around the Pacific Ocean. And, anyways, courtesy of Kimbo Nice, let's see if he'll do these. The Shih Tzu treats. Clyde. Clyde. Come here. Come on. You gotta come here. Come on. Come on. You gotta pay the tax. You gotta pay the streamer tax. Oh, wow. He's cold. He went outside. You can feel it on him. So, Jesus Christ, dude. He likes the vitamins. Hold on here. Okay. You're going to have to eat in camera, though. You're going to have to eat so people can hear you. Over here. Other way around. Here. Ready? There. All right, Bubba. You're inside my microphone cable. There you go. All right. No, Kurt got a phenomenal guest, Vinnie Politan from Core TV. I got to step up my game, man. That's I'm going to go listen to that when I get a chance. Like, I have to drive tomorrow. I'm going to listen to that. Like, that's so fucking cool. I mean, think about that. That's like that's the corporate end of LawTube and like trial and court coverage and legal stuff. Vinnie Politan, and Vinnie Politan's been doing he's been doing TV stuff for a long. Oh, okay. I'm setting you down. Okay, Bubba. I can fuck. You're a good boy, but Jesus, like, oh my God. I don't know if that beat Vinnie Politan right there, but fucking ew. In my hair and shit. Clyde, you fucker. You son of a bitch. But no, Kurt, that's man, he's fearless getting people. But that's pretty fucking cool. He had told me a couple days ago, I was talking to him. He's like, I might get Vinnie Politan on. I was like, that's some epic shit, man. That's some epic stuff. So I'm gonna have to get somebody from the Supreme Court on. Yeah, there's also times where there's facts not in evidence, but that's not a normal thing here. Brennan's constantly reinforcing his narrative with improper questions. I agree. But I can do that too. I can use improper questions all the time. You ask questions knowing they're going to get objected to, but you use them to plant the seeds. So Clyde is tired of me shilling for him. Yes. Thank you, Sean. Very kind. Hey, by all means, don't be afraid to ask questions. Please ask questions. Clyde was shit testing me. Ugh. And yes, Ghost, you change your color every once in a while. CLYDE. The only acceptable solo towers are the Clyde towers. So, yes, he did. He blew snow everywhere. He almost got Vinny to talk crap about YouTubers. Well, Vinny said he'd have Kurt on Core TV at some point. Hell yeah. Like, that's fucking cool. That's super cool. That's awesome. Like, if Vinny really said that, that's... I'm happy as shit for Kurt. That is so cool. That is so cool. I'm going to have to talk to him later when I get the chance. Aaron would eat that off me. I bet he would. Oh. I got covered in goo, yeah. Bifron said Kurt paid for it. No. I'm sure he just reached out and Vinny's like, hell yeah, I'll come on and talk. Just had to work it around his schedule. I've heard that because I've talked with Bob Mata before. I've asked him about some of these TV people, and he says the TV people are actually nice. The people who do all the TV stuff, they're pretty cool. He's got that Josh Schaefer guy on. He's had Rick, what's the name? The guy, Rick Shorenstein on his show before. He's interacted with all these other people. He says they're all great. So that's not a surprise to me that Vinny would come on to Kurt's thing. They're very good people. And if Bob Mata likes you, that's that's a good thing. That's a seal of approval. Bob Mata from the Defense Diaries. So I got to reach out to Bob. I know he's been busy with Karen Reed too. So is my new guest Kino Casino? Yeah. Yes, I'm going to have PPP on. So. Let me see here. Play Freebird. Yeah. Vinny frequently interviews Melanie Little. Yeah, she's one of the frequents on his shows. So. Need to get someone on here. I need to. I bet Anna would do my show. I probably have to take the Trump stuff down, but that would be funny. Hi, Anna. Do you have would you like to comment on the Nick Rekieta saga? I mean, that would be like, so Anna, do you think Aaron really did eat Nick's goo? Do you really think the nanny gave the kids alcohol? Oh God, that'd be great. That'd be great. So I'm getting PWR. I bet PWR would be fun. That would be fun. You remember Vinny from TV like years ago? Yeah. Let me see here. Yeah, the body camera special do with Anna. That would be funny. I got to talk to Nolan Hardin and find out if they're able to I've told Hardin, if you guys are going to get it, I need a warning to prepare. I won't tell anybody, but I need time to prepare. And if I do get it, oh my God, that would be funny to have Anna Kasparian on to go over it with me. This is fuck. This is brilliant, chat. This is brilliant. You guys are smart. I say that all the time. I say it all the damn time. You guys are so smart and so clever. You don't understand. I couldn't come up with that, and I'm an idiot. That's how big of an idiot I am. You guys are sublimely clever. Melanie just hit 100K subs. I'd say she started I think she started the trial around like almost 80. She gained 20,000 subs. Woo! I know she's killing it out there. She raked in oh, hold on here. Let's do Playboard. She is just killing it out there. Emily Baker's killing it out there too. But if you go to how people are doing per day, Emily Baker $2,100 today. Melanie Little 1,700. They've been both killing it. Tragos got 1,200 today. These guys are just crushing it. Kirsha got 1,100 today. People are whooping ass and cleaning house. AV to the 7th got, did really well. Everybody's doing good. And that's the thing, guys. Everybody's doing good. That's the good shit. That's the good shit out there, chat. Like, there are just some people absolutely beating ass out there. Now, I think we're doing really good too. We're kicking ass on a smaller scale, but we're still kicking ass. Would I love to be at 100K? Sure. But you know what? Melanie Little's 100K. That's good. I like that. That's an outcome I could be like, that's good. Wholesome. Wholesome AF. Let me see here. Runkle's got Runkle's got Mark Bedro on. Jeez. Man, some of you guys are getting good gets out there. I gotta reach out to people. I really gotta reach out to people. Let's see here. Crit for TV, Nick for jail. Ralph is facing revenge porn charges again. Yes, he is. Allegedly, they're out there, and I learned about those a couple days ago. I got an inside scoop. So, but yeah, I'll reach out to Anna when the stuff comes out. So, Bella says we need clips to repost of the trial. I'll work on trying to put stuff together. You'll appear on my show just to see how bad the accents are. Do some more shows on Mindset and Kurt. No, I'll work on that too. Let me see here. Kurt's done a lot of good interviews lately. His Turtle Boy one was very good too. Mark Bedro was really good as well. Let's see here. Melanie who? Attorney Melanie Little. She's on here. She does really, really good work. She has her own channel. It's literally called Attorney Melanie Little. She's really good at her stuff. She's been an attorney for I don't know if she's retired or she's just kind of scaled back or what her situation is, but she's been an attorney like 30 years. She's really good. I've listened to her before. I listen to her. Like I said, guys, I listen to her, Andrea Burkhart, Emily Baker, Peter Tragos. I listen to Kurt. I listen to Runkle. Don't be afraid to go out and listen to people. Helps you kind of round things out. Yeah, Peter Tragos isn't done live, but he's been on with the Ted Hansen guy from NBC Boston. Him and Emily Baker have gone on to do stuff. So, yeah, Emily Baker has been crushing it too. Yep, a lot of people have. Says he probably gets more game-worn panties than I get models. Oh, yeah. No, guys, you're thinking of Anita Sarkeesian versus Anna Kasparian. Two vastly different people. Would Bev have spoken to the jury privately? No, the attorneys would have been involved because they might have to they might have to ask for a mistrial. They might have to have jurors excused. They might not want that juror to be excused. No, anything involving the jury, that she does not get to meet with those. That's ex parte. No, all parties, both the defense and state have a right to be there. So I need to step up my game. I do. We got to get me to 100K. Well, let's get to 30K. Let's get to that goal. So I can only get sector adjacent interviews. Yeah. Well, hey. So, do I allow clipping and reposting? Yeah. Anybody who wants to clip and repost stuff, they have my permission to do whatever. I mean, not even. It's not like I need to give you permission because if it's fair use, it's fair use. So, yeah. When I reach 100K, will chat be filled with too many people? I mean, yeah, but I guess think about it like this. Don't worry about it till we get there because that's a long way to go. You guys are still you guys. So I wouldn't be worried about it. So, oh, you listen to Melanie during the day and you catch up with me and she's retired? Okay. I know you don't want to, but if you could ask people to like the stream, please like the stream, guys. Like and subscribe and share. Andrew's super busy battling nuisance streamers. Yeah, he's out there running the V2 market and dealing with Vitaly and the other people. I should do a joint live stream with Kurt, Jimmy John's, and Denny's. It's like Call of Duty, where it's like the SAS and the Recon joint operation. Kurt, I'm here at the Jimmy John's. It's an ambush. Oh. Yes. Oh, well, speaking of that, I think we are going to do an Apex. I have it, so I try not to do them too much, but we are going to do, we're going to play off with the cards and some of your stuff here coming up. So I'm going to play us off tonight since we got done a little early. Too many rules in other chats. I understand. Melanie Little started YouTube through Duty Ron on the law enforcement side of YouTube. Really? Did not know that. I also know that's another part of this that's kind of going big. Let me see here. You should see some of the clips I posted, Sean, in his Discord. Well, yeah. Those towers will be huge at 100K. Yeah. T-Rex trucking. Do you think 5 days helps the defense or Commonwealth more? Probably both. They're both going to take some time to recharge their batteries. And they can also then spend time reworking stuff. Because I will say, if a trial drags on, you get to the point of you are reforming your battle plans because you've been through first contact. And we're way past first contact. We're well into the battle, and things have they've had a general idea on how things are going to go, but I'm sure they didn't expect to get what they got out of Carrie Roberts. I'm sure they didn't expect Shannon Burgess to crash and burn like that. So I think Hank is having to scramble a little bit. I think Jackson and Yannetti are going to scramble a little bit. I think both sides are probably happy with how it's going. And they're going to be tweaking stuff and planning and doing some more gaming. So they'll take advantage of the weekend, but this is a lull in the battle that both sides are going to be able to take an advantage of. If I get to 100K, you'll never get a gifted sub. Well, that's a funny way of looking at it. No court for 5 days, correct? What kind of snacks are we gonna eat with the body cam drop? I'll probably eat some Jimmy John's. I'll act like, guys, I try not to eat actively on screen just because I think it's a little disrespectful. But like, if we get the body cam, I will sit here on screen and shovel Jimmy John's in my face as we're doing it. Ski Man for £5 sterling is saying, I tried to get folks to tune your streams, but they said you said bad things about Nick. Well, yeah. I said what I said, and I stand behind them. So I do appreciate you talking to them, though. I had to explain the lore. I was there for some time. Well, you know what? If they don't want to be here, obviously they don't have to be here. But if they want to support Nick, then they have every right to do that, just like you have every right to be here. So, Philip Coggins saying, "What is up with Anna, and why would she come on the show?" Okay, so Anna Kasparian knows Sitch and Adam, the Sitch and Adam guys who are generally on Sundays. Sitch and Adam had me on to talk about Nick Rekieta when he first got pinched. Anna is a regular on their show. They're actually they get along very, very well. Like, Anna pops in every once in a while. She's in their chat. They have her on a ton. The Nick Rekieta thing is like her like dirty, like it's like her it's one of her hobbies that she indulges in. And she loves the drama behind it. And she knows everybody. She knows Steel Toe. She knows the lore. She knows the lore of this whole situation. And she follows it. It's a guilty pleasure for her. And that's why we've been joking that Anna would come on for that. That's a good idea. I will reach out to her, though. I'll reach out to her. So, Bev's going to probably have a bunch of margaritas, I'm sure. Tim Beatty saying phase lines are being drawn. Oh, phase lines are being redrawn. Phase lines are being redrawn. Like the battlefield, like, okay, yes, there was a contact. But now things have gone generally probably to plan. First contact was a year ago. Well, no, this is like this is like the Battle of the Azanzo River. Except we're not in the 14th battle of it. And yes, Chad, if you didn't know that in World War I, the Azanzo River between the Italians and the Austrians, there were 14 battles for it. But think of it like the first and second Battle of Bull Run. There was a second Battle of Bull Run. Not as big and not as well known, but they fought at Bull Run again. So sometimes you will have a fight in the same area. Or like El Alamein. There was a first battle, El Alamein. Then there was a second. The second was the one you know about. Sometimes, yes, you fight over the same battlefield. In this case, Karen Reed is the battlefield. I was so flattered, like, people know who I am. Trust me, it's cool when people learned about you. CLYDE, yes. Do you think they might watch me during their day off? No, but they shit gets crowdsourced. We're to that point now where attorneys, they do have people working and they do filter out information. They do take advantage of that. I guarantee you they've been taking advantage of it. I'm probably not somebody they're listening to, though. So, are you going to eat Jimmy John's in front of Anna Kasparian? I'll eat it very nicely. Get that P.O. box and somebody will melt nose candy for the body cam footage. Jesus Christ, no. So, let's see here. Plot twist, Anna is anonymous. So, yes, Carl Jobs declared bankruptcy. Yeah. Yep. Billy Mitchell's making him suffer. You can use a promo code. There's a bunch of promo codes for Richie's hot chicken sauce you can get from Billy Mitchell. He's selling it like hotcakes. Apparently, people said it's really good. It's not very vinegary based. So, Philip Kogan is saying, yes, Bull Run, where the two sides did the most American thing by switching the sides of the field after halftime. Yes. It's very interesting how that all went. Yes, it's very interesting. Do nannies have attorneys? Maybe. Oh. Watch Anna eat a sandwich for sure. Though that would be hilarious if she had one too. I'd be like, Anna, if you come on, you really need to. Yes, Anna must really hate cucks and gays if she's anonymous. Yes. So. All right, chat. So we are going to take a break here. We're going to come back and we are going to what are we going to work on? We got some things we can do tonight. Just think about doing members only, but we just did one of those for the week. I think we might work on this. You guys want to put some decals on this bitch? Let's decal this bitch up. How about that? That'll be our game plan. Because it's ready to get decaled. And I did admit the one night I did cheat, and we got some paneling done, chat. So forgive me for I have sinned. But we'll do that. We'll do that. Models it is while I cook my steak. There'll be more body cams. No, but I think we'll do some I bet I can get Alex Stein to come on. I've talked to him a couple of times through some of these things. Not like on camera, but I've emailed with him a couple of times. Get Sam Hyde to come on. That I couldn't do that, Chad. If I did that, I would have peaked, and then it would be all downhill from there. But I bet I can get Alex Stein. That would be great. That would be great. Alex Stein would come on. Yeah, Sam Hyde would tell you to get in the gym. I know he would. And I need to more. So I need to do stuff. Bring the Casino Bros on. If I get the body cam, I'll invite everybody on. So get Jesse Potoffel on. Oh my God, that would be great. But yes, that would be a lot of fun there, chat. So anyways, body cam stream, we're talking about when it happens. When the body, because guys, it's not a question of if. The way I understand it's a question of when. So get Alex Spiro and I will fangirl. Well, yeah, that's not happening, but Alex Stein could happen. Probably. I'll try that. Once we get the body cam, we'll do it. But chat, we're going to take a break real quick. We're going to come back and we are going to work on this tonight because you know what? I keep staring at this because it's sitting on my table right in front of me. And yeah, also, lifers out there, you guys are going to get a nice little surprise just for you guys as a members only video. So that should be coming out tomorrow. I think you guys will enjoy it. It's going to be a nice little thing for you. But yes, real quick, sellers, thank you for the $20. But we will be right back. We'll listen to the casino and we'll work on this bad boy and kind of go from there. So with that said, chat, yeah. We Louis says, I like Nick and Sean. You don't have to take a side. No, you don't have to. You totally don't. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. But we will continue this in a short minute here. So actually, you know what? I'll set this up. Now. Hold on. And you know what? We'll hang out here tonight. No, I don't need to enter studio. I'm already in the studio. All right, hold on, Chad. Hold on. Create live stream. Okay, so we're going to set this for a couple of minutes. I can go talk to 2.0, see how she's doing, and check in on her. Hold on here. Got to get the shopping of photos opened. Okay, come on. Forgot to mention, chat, and nobody told me who they are. The train is going to be the next model. We're going to work on the locomotive, but nobody included a note. So if you're out there, hero, please take a bow because we are going to do that next. I just want you to know. Okay, I think this is just part 10. Flatten image. And we gotta save the image, save it as a PNG. Yes. Okay. And then we are gonna upload the thumbnail. Hold on, guys. I know this is dead air here. We got the sofa. So. All right. So we're going to be here in about 5 minutes. Foamers are coming in. Yeah, we're going to do the foaming. So did anybody own up to sending the train or no? Like, I'm not going to ban you. I just really want to know so I can tell you thank you. So. Oh, somebody's asking lifers? Yes. I didn't intentionally when I did it, but I have multiple tiers of membership here on YouTube. And life, you can be a misdemeanor, felon, or a lifer. And lifer is the top tier. So they're going to get something special because there's a couple of them out there. And I want to show them some appreciation, show them things. So that's what we're going to do. All right. So we are. Okay, hold on here. If it loads, I can move stuff around. All right, chat. Here we go. That's the problem. It won't let me redirect, and it's not fast. All right. So I will see you guys in a couple minutes. And remember, until next time, chat, just because you did it does not mean you're guilty. And I'm still, Karen Reed's still not guilty to me, guys. She's still not guilty. I don't, yeah. Still there. So not guilty for Karen Reed still how I feel. In the meantime, chat, good night. And I will see you guys in a couple minutes. Take care.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains. Much merriment had while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops, even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just 'cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty. But please talk to a local attorney. Was that the fat guy that hated you?